Trip off. I tell them from the go, I ain't the one to piss off. It's another hit from the inner city groove. People come and go, but the brand's still moving. Sticking to the script for 30 years, they proved it. Thinking that the train won't stop is amusing. We turning up the heat, no more excuses. Drinking so hard, we lead a club ruthless. This a RE party, we do this. One thing about that is we ain't losing. Shout to all the crews, y'all know what to do. One hand in the air, ladies can do it too. If the beat gets you hyped, turn it from left to right. If you really feel the band, then put up your other hand. DJ, turn it up, turn it. Don't stop, turn it up now. Turn it, turn it up, turn it. Come on, turn it up, yeah. It's time to turn up again. The people at the door, please let them in. Talisa, Keisha, also Pam. They like to turn it up, they love to jam. Put your hands in the air, cause here I am. With the weirdest man alive, they cranking man. And all my ratchet girls, no drama man. Corleone's on the mic, Hockey's the band. Meet up with your team, time to get it. Cheers to the good life, yeah we win it. Bottles passed around, show some love. Pretty girls in the club, show some love. City to city, town to town. Even LA, crazy the sound. ATL, they love it now. Shorty Corleone, DC, turn up right now. Turn it up, soul, turn it up, turn it. Boston, turn it up, turn it. Security, turn it up, turn it. Everybody in the club, y'all turn it up. Turn it up, go and turn it. Loud, loud, and turn it up, go and turn it.
Welcome to the GoWIN radio show right here on GoGo Radio Live, Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWIN.media, coming to you live from the shops at Iverson, and I am privileged and pleased to have in our very special guest on time for a change. I tell you, boy, this is we started off the week right. Although we have some unsavory weather coming in tomorrow, and I'm highly disappointed about that because, you know, DC, we don't handle, you know, these weather conditions, you know, bad weather conditions too well. But we're going to deal with it, and we're going to fight through it, and make it do what it do, as Ray Charles would say. But once again, I really would like to thank the shops at Iverson for this opportunity that we have for celebrating our month of Black History Month, even though we should be celebrating it every single day of the year, 365. I'm very, very pleased to have our special guest in, Miss Christy Gilroy? Guillory. You said I was going to do that. I think you set me up. Miss Christy Guillory, and I got the brother right here, Mr. Okay Inya.
Correct.
Oh, okay. And I got the hardest one right. That is crazy. I'm sorry, Queen.
That's all right.
All right. But I'm very, very pleased to have you two in today because we have a very special event coming up this Saturday right here at the shops at Iverson. That's going to be really celebrating the and rejoicing the history of our people here in the United States. And when we talk about our history, a lot of people think that it started right here for whatever reason, and I kind of blame the American school system for a lot of that. And we don't really celebrate the richness of our true history, which started back to the beginning of mankind. So I'm gonna jump right in there with you two about that, and if you don't mind, and we'll get into your books and your work that you've put in. But I really wanted to talk about Black history with you two right away because, as I said, you know, I'm kind of disappointed a lot of times with how we've been portrayed in the media, and we all know that the media is what it is, and it puts out the information that they want to put out. But I'd just like to get you two views as far as how do you feel that that our children, which essentially without their upbringing and their knowledge, our views of us can be kind of, for a lack of a better term, filtered, for what it actually is. So I'm gonna start with you, Inya. What are your thoughts?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me, and I appreciate this opportunity to share part of my story in oral and in written form, and to kind of share my thoughts as it relates to Black History Month. So I bring a unique perspective, part of it because my parents are from Nigeria. I grew up here on the south side of Chicago. I'm from the Igbo tribe, and which is the tribe that covers most of the southeast part of Nigeria. So my parents live in the southwest suburbs of Chicago, and I'm the oldest of 6 children. So I grew up in a family, in an environment, in a culture that was very intentional about teaching our roots, our language, our food, our customs, our traditions. And I think that, and so because of that upbringing, I have the responsibility now to give back and to share how I have developed, how I have grown into a well-rounded, conscious man of African descent. And so it's incumbent upon us, those that have learned our history both spiritually and culturally, I think is very important, to give back, to empower, to educate, to raise awareness, to lift as we climb. And so I think with that heart, to serve and to give back, that is one way in which I am helping to build the African and the African American communities And so one way in which that has manifest is in my book, where I trace, for me personally, back to my great-grandmother in Nigeria. And I walk the reader all the way through my life story up until now. So
So it's basically autobiography.
Yes.
Okay.
You're right. And there's a lot in the book as well. I basically leverage or take my life story to inform a wide range of issue areas as it relates to the STEAM fields, the science, technology, engineering, arts, and math field, the school-to-prison pipeline, the opioid epidemic, health equity, health disparities, mental health and well-being for black men and boys. I talk about race and ethnicity, so it covers a wide range, and also include policy recommendations and strategies as to how can we as a people move the needle, be that critical person at the decision-making table, which means that we have to know our history to become confident and competent in who and whose we are, so that when we are challenged, we have a sense of culture and identity to lean on, to resist, to deconstruct, and to educate. And so that's part of what I bring to any space and place.
Let me ask you this. My wife, she's Ethiopian.
Okay.
Okay, and we talk about this all the time as far as how African American men and women, one, don't appreciate their original culture, and really don't take it to heart as they should, and they actually kind of shun the fact that their origins are from the motherland, and I think that has a lot to do with the views that we have when we deal with other people from the original continent.
Correct.
And I just want to, by you coming up in Chicago, which is diverse, tough parts. I've been in Chicago, and I've been in Chicago in two of the hardest times of the year. I was there for New Year's Eve when it was brick cold out there,
right.
And I was there for the taste.
Okay, summertime, yeah, July,
yes,
yeah.
when it was 1,000 degrees,
right, yeah.
and the humidity was stifling.
Yeah.
So I've been on both ends of, so I know, and I've been through the hood, my man, because I was in the service, I was in the military.
Okay.
And so one of my military friends, they was from Chicago,
Okay.
so, and then my ex, she was in Chicago as well. So so I went there and visited, and I was there for a while, and I went through the whole part, I went to the mosque,
Okay.
the Mosque Marion, so and I was on all sides of Chicago, so I seen a little bit of everything, and so it's very, very diverse there. Matter of fact, I went to what they call Jewtown.
Oh yes,
Is that still there?
It is, but it's not called Jewtown anymore. So it's because of the gentrification that's taking place across the country. Things.
So it's across the country.
Oh yes, the gentrification is happening all around the country. Yes, it's not just in D.C.
So D.C. Yeah, I was just about to say. So D.C. don't y'all take it personally.
Right, it's happening everywhere. So yeah.
So really, so they done thinned that out. Huh?
Oh yeah, like our people are moving out of the city. I mean, in droves, and so that there's there's.
So what's your perspective on that?
Well, it's obviously part and parcel of larger issues, such as race and discrimination. Kind of looking at economics as well. So where are the jobs going? What parts of the communities have been disinvested, and most of those communities are made up of black and brown people, and so when you don't have the socioeconomic base to attract or the jobs to attract people from diverse backgrounds to a metropolis, then you're going to have people trying to find places to go because that's where the jobs are. So what's happening is that most of the black and brown on the south and west sides of Chicago, they are leaving because the city historically, well, is not being, is being disinvested in. In fact, and I put a plug in for my sister who is running for mayor of Chicago right now, and the election actually is, yes, Dr. Amara Enya. She's running for mayor of Chicago. The election is I think it's next Tuesday, the 26th.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So
okay.
these
And
are
we
the
are
last,
the World Wide Web, so I'm
right,
sure somebody in Chicago tuning in right now.
Yes. So definitely support her campaign. I served as her chief of staff when she ran the first time in 2015, and so this is a historic run for her as a young black woman in a very crowded field. Right now, I think there are 14 candidates that are vying for it, and so she also, and so because of our
she's
family
running
upbringing,
as a Democratic?
no,
Or independent?
So she's not, so at the mayoral level, it's not so much right, it's not so much Democratic or Republican, it's just it's more so what your views are. So it's more so kind of whether you are progressive or conservative or moderate. So she does tend to lean left. She is very progressive, and so I've been helping her, and also because my family, is made up of scholar activists who were involved in politics. I'm now in D.C. working on the Hill, and so just the whole culture and upbringing that has helped to inform a lot of what I'm doing right now. And when you have people in power that don't necessarily have the hearts or the best interests of everyone to succeed, then you have the massive imbalances that you see in the communities that historically have been disenfranchised. So
I was just about to say, because that is naturally the American way. America was built on those principles.
correct.
And so people shouldn't be, I think the issue is that we've been dealing with these same issues for hundreds of years, and we haven't come with a plan in order for us to unite as a voice in order for it to be rectified.
Right.
And that to me is more of a bigger problem than the actual problem itself. For us not to see eye to eye and say, well, you know what, we all are kind of suffering here. We all not getting what we need. Why can't we come together on one common principle? And that to me is more of an issue for us, especially African Americans who've been here. As long as we have, and we still dealing with the same issues. Christy, I'd like to get the female point of view here, because obviously, and what you haven't tuned into our show, maybe you have, maybe you haven't, but we exalt our black sisters to the highest degree. My principle and my views are that we all come from women, and for us to disrespect where we come from, thus we call it Mother Earth, the mother continent. Everything comes from the queens, and we as black men, or just men in general, have an issue to where we feel like we have to stronghold and look down on our women, and when it's just the opposite, where we need to exalt them, and that'd be more of a benefit for our people. So let me turn it all the way back around to you, and just get your points of views of where do you feel that our people, as we are here in the so-called Black History Month, feel like the moves that we suffer at today that we need to improve upon.
Again, I'd like to start by saying thank you for the opportunity to be here and to also discuss my views on these topics and also my book. For me, I'll tell you a little bit about myself. I'm from Louisiana, very proud native of Louisiana, where we have a very unique culture.
What part?
Southwestern. I always tell people, if they don't know, it's not New Orleans, about 2 hours west.
Shreveport?
That's northern.
Okay.
Southwestern. The town is called Opelousas, Louisiana. And for me, I grew up, my mother was an educator for over 40 years. She taught second grade. You know, and for me, I always grew up in also a community where there are black professionals, lawyers, doctors, but always, it always came back to education. Many people in my family were also teachers, so I grew up with a constant desire for knowledge, wanting to seek out new things, learn new things, and that carried me throughout my life. And when I left the state to pursue a master's degree, and then also came to DC, I started working. You know, my colleague and I have a somewhat similar background. I worked on Capitol Hill. I've been in the policy realm, and then I left for a few years to go to law school and came back. But for me, the filter, the view that I see a lot of these things is through being a woman. You know, I feel like, you know, because sometimes people say, well, how do you view yourself? You know, I view myself in the things that I want to do through two filters. A, being African American, because that's something I live and breathe. That is me. And then second, being a woman. And now that I am raising I have a daughter, now that I'm raising someone who will grow up in this society, I think, what is lacking? What can I do to aid her? Which is how also I thought about coming forth with the book. But, you know, with me, writing has been a critical part of my life throughout, because going through some old papers the other day, you know, when I was at home for Christmas in Louisiana, it was one of the funny things I found one of the first things I wrote. I went to Loyola University as an undergrad, and I wrote an article, what is it like to be a black student at Loyola University? And of course now, you know, my writing is much different, so it was kind of funny. But just saying then, okay, we need to be active. We need to be part of the Black Student Union. We need to be together. We need to, you know, have some commonalities as African American students. You know, and that's, you know, that whole kind of view of commonality, social justice. I went to a high school. One of their precepts, social justice, calls us to action. It's looking at my environment saying, what can I do to make it better? I'm not just here, but I'm here to leave an imprint, a footprint. What can I do to make it better? And as you referenced this so-called Black History Month, yes, it's the shortest month of the year, and a lot of times we go back to highlighting the black figures that we've all grown up hearing about. You know, we know about Martin Luther King, you know, we know about Rosa Parks, but it's also thinking about other individuals. You know, there were people, you know, George Washington Carver, there are many, you know, I could go on, but...
Those in your own community.
Exactly. There are people that we pass every day that we don't know what they're doing and how they are contributing, but they're living black history and making black history. Through writing, we're changing the course of history. For me, writing a children's book was never something I sought out to do, but I felt I had to. You know, I brought my daughter to a bookstore and just was astounded at the lack of books that looked like us as a family, that spoke to her. I said, this is, for me, is unacceptable. I need to change this trajectory, because she won't, I'm her greatest role model in how to be a woman, how to be a girl. So I wanted her to have something that mirrors our values and the things that, you know, has a book that says, this looks like me. And also, and we talked about representations of black people, a positive representation. Because the representations we see now, we know are not positive, but also it's not enough representations at all. We look at stuff geared toward children. There are not a lot of black children portrayed in many things. And also, for me, I wanted the main character that is patterned exactly after my daughter to be strong and confident.
Well, I wanted to get into the books, you know, directly, but I just wanted to lead into it by basically just talking about exactly what you was talking about earlier, as far as representation, proper representation for our children coming up, the lack of proper representation, which you spoke on, because I see our children really caught up in today's media, and there's various different types of media, whether it be video game, TV, music, other outsources, and I always felt like those in control have a plan of what they want to put out, because if they really wanted to put out positive images, they could, which made the movie Black Panther such a revolutionary movie, because one, is a black superhero, two, black women were put to the forefront of that movie.
Finally, finally.
Yes, you know, and I think that kind of get lost in the whole thought of that, you know, because his general was a queen, you know, and they were the ones, you know, essentially at war, you know, fighting the battle, and I think a lot of that, you know, gets kind of caught up in all the imagery and whatnot. But it was a very significant part of that movie, and not to lean on that so much, but it was a media piece. And so you two are within the media because this is media right here and putting out positive imagery for those of us. But when you two were in college, I want to ask this, and I want to, you know, finish with the queen right here, is that, like you said, when you was in college and y'all wanted to come together and said, well, you know, we need to have positive references and whatnot. Do you, because my boots are to the ground. You know, I did college, you know, University of Maryland, Eastern Shore, and overseas, I was in the military, Air Force. And so, but when I'm in the streets and I'm dealing with our people one-on-one, I see a lot of lost souls, a lot of lost souls. And we get caught up in trivial BS, as they say. What are your views right now is what is really missing on the basic side of things that is that is not touching our people the right way in order for us to wake up?
Wow, that's a loaded question. There's so many things. I mean,
well, you got time.
How much time do I have? I mean, but in terms for us to, quote, wake up, one is access. And you think access to what? It's, sometimes we lack services, we lack knowledge. Sometimes it's putting someone, it's just saying, you know what, talking about representation, showing someone you can do this. If you can see it, you can believe it.
Well, I think that's actually been kind of our problem right there. Like, I think today, more than any other time in the history of us being in America, we've had more access to knowledge than any other time. Do you agree?
You're right. No, I believe we have access, but I still feel some people feel that they don't. Because it's also showing, let's say, the youth that while sports is great, there are other avenues you can pursue. Because I just saw an interview, I think it was this morning or it was another morning, you know, there's a black female director of, I think she's high up in NBA or something, pardon me for not knowing the specifics, but it's just saying, this woman is a mover and a shaker. I can do that. I may not need to play, but I may want to be a business person, an executive. I think that we put it out there, but we don't show people how to get there. That's two different things than saying, here, read a book, do this, but you know what? I will help you along the way to getting there. That's one piece. I think access has a lot of it, and also just, like I said, seeing. You know, if a child sees myself, my colleague here, I can do this. Because I've had more people in book readings come up to me, children, and it's heartwarming. They ask, after they hear the readings, literally ask me, how did you write the book? Tell me the steps.
Right.
Because they're seeing, this woman did it. You know, she's black, she looks like me. I can do it too. And their parents saying, you know what, you can. Again, I agree with what you're saying, but I think we have to still put the role models, put a face to it. This person did it, this person, and actually where they can see it, feel it, touch it. You know, you can have someone that's in an ivory tower so far away, it's not real to people. Someone in your community, you know what, but also saying, I will help you. Because think about mentorship. Mentors come in a lot of ways. You know, a mentor can just touch you once a year, but a mentor who says, you know what, I'll take you by the hand, I'll show you how I did it. And it's, you know, it's not having a crabs in the barrel mentality. Sometimes we have that.
Sometimes.
Well, I'm trying to be nice here. It's more, but you know, but it's saying, you know what, I am here for you. Mentoring is a lot of work. I think that's needed. I think it's saying, again, these are the steps that I went through. I'm here for you. And also realize sometimes, you know, people may fail. Sometimes we want to present, you know, this path that may not have any stumbling blocks. Sometimes the road to success may be filled a little bit with some setbacks. It's just being honest. Like I said, I always try to show children this is the path that I went, and it may not work for you, but this is what's worked for me, but I'm more than willing to share my knowledge and my resources with you.
Brother Inya?
Same here. You know, as I mentioned earlier, it's about having a heart to lift as you climb, and to leave a place or person better than how you found them in some way, shape, or form. So for me, part of what drove me to write my book is to lay out a roadmap, a very transparent roadmap to say, this has been, you know, my life story. This is how I got from college to the workforce, to graduate school, to med school, to Capitol Hill. Literally, I map it out in the book, and I also include ways in which you can find a job, whether it's in government or on Capitol Hill or just in general in the workforce. So, you know, I was very intentional about what I crafted to ensure that any person that picked up the book had a roadmap to say, okay, this is how he started, and these are the steps, step by step, his experiences, his challenges, his obstacles, barriers, issues. You know, I failed courses, failed out of, you know, just done. So, you know, because people tend to get caught up in the glory of a thing, but don't necessarily understand the story behind it.
The struggles.
Exactly. What's the process that you went through?
The struggles will make you who you are.
Exactly, right? So what is the process that you went through to get to where you are? Because, you know, even now in my current circle, you know, so, you know, people wonder how I got to where I am today, working on Capitol Hill as a conscious black male. You know, I am currently a doctoral student where I'm looking to pursue a doctorate in public health with a focus in health policy. So I document in the book what that process looked like, how to get into grad school, what tests I had to take, how I got through those tests, so that, you know, because people tend to become what they see. And I know that I've been blessed to have the support, the community, the access to resources that has helped me to get to where I am today. So I have an obligation, not many people do, but I do, to give back, to chart a path, to at least, you know, provide some type of framework or context around, wow, this brother came from the South Side Chicago as a black male, going to a predominantly white college, going to a predominantly white med school, going to a minority serving institution. So I've navigated a whole bunch of different circles and spaces, and have evolved. And so
and held on to your blackness.
Absolutely. I am
that's very important.
I am unapologetically black. And I say that wherever I go, because African, yes. So in fact,
I'm not trying to put words in.
No, it's fine. No, because on my website I say that I am an unapologetic man of African descent, of Christian faith. You know, because you know, I literally wouldn't be sitting here in my right mind if I didn't have the roots, both the culture and the spiritual roots, to be able to navigate these spaces to help, you know, other people. So that's part of what I package in the book, and so that's my contribution. My part of my purpose is to make this person better, make this place better than how I found it in some way, shape, or form.
And I would just like to piggyback a little bit on something you said that resonated with me about spirituality. My book, while it's for small children and families, but it hits upon spiritual, a little bit of spirituality and Christian faith. My book is about what may seem simple to everybody, but if you think about it, it's a kind of complex. It's gratitude. It's teaching children appreciation. The title, Harper Counts Her Blessings. It's something I think everyone should, you know, in this day and age that we live in, we can all take a minute every day to say, okay, you know what, today might have been hard, but thank you, or whoever you pray to, thank you, God, for this happening to me today. And to me, my book, I wanted to start those conversations with small children and families to incite family bonding, discussions of gratitude. What can we as a family, what can we thank God for, and what can we look forward to tomorrow? Because too many times, you know, think about Christmas. We all know, you know, kids get so much, or people, you know, everything is such it's mass consumerism. Let's step back and take it to the bare bones. What are we thankful for? You know, shelter, you know, housing, our lives, you know. So that's what I wanted to leave an imprint on. helping families to bond and helping us all to just be a little bit more grateful.
Well, I tell you what, we're going to go to a musical break real quick, and when we come back, we're going to expand on your books and how they can get it. But also, I want to expand on a couple of different things that you two both touched upon. One, you just said on family, and also Capitol Hill. And look, we could do 2 hours straight
Right, I know, very
for me,
easily.
because I'm really big into politics. So I know we don't have that type of time we're dealing with right now, but trust and believe me, brother, I might have to bring you back on this one.
That's cool, man. Yeah,
You know what I'm saying? So no, I'm really, really big on
Yeah,
this.
she's also-
I come from a political
she-
family.
Okay, well, we
yeah,
can
so we both
all
tag
get
team.
down now.
Yeah, we can tag team on it.
Yeah, no doubt about that. But I do want to talk, expand on that and what we got coming up for this coming Saturday, because we have another. They come to the top of the hour, the other two.
I think 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
I think 1 o'clock.
yeah.
I think it was from 11 to 12, then 1 to 2.
Right.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, we can get down. Yeah, look,
Oh, we opened up Pandora's box.
Hey, look. I'm gonna tell you, we can really go into that because I think that's what's really missing amongst our daily people. When we go into the barbershop, we're talking about typical rhetoric that really doesn't matter in the grand scheme of things, and whether barbershop or wherever you venture at, and so sometimes when we have these type of platforms, we need to really expand on what we need to expand on. So that's my mailman. So let's go to the break real quick. And you're tuned in right now to the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live. Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWIN.media. We're coming to you live from the shops at Iverson, getting ready for this Saturday's Black History Month Book Bazaar. And we have two of the premier authors right here. They're going to be there. What's the time y'all going to be down there?
12 to 5.
Yeah. 12 to 5 p.m. So y'all got a long day Saturday.
So we want lots of people to come out.
That's right.
We've got
And
plenty of
got plenty
time.
of
You can
time.
come meet and greet, talk to each of us.
Yes, and look, and we're going to make sure everybody knows about it. No ifs, ands, or buts about that, all right? We'll be right back with you.
Yeah, come on. DC, how y'all feel out there? Wherever you are, turn your radio up, turn your stereo up. In here. Hey yo, Dante.
I wear this jersey cause Chicago is my city, my home. 186 where I would never ever leave it alone. Papa gave the sticks, the church gave me the microphone. After OFO, I knew that it was time to roam. Had to head south to come up on the knowledge of my roots. Nashville, Cashville, I miss you. Southern bells, I had to ring them. Them alphas, I had to be one. After 07, this cat had to be gone. Came to DC to climb the hill they call the Capitol. Policy and hearings for 5 years I had to tackle. The fear and lack of self-worth that tormented my soul. Cause politics is usual, make me feel cold. Went down a black alley, came out with a rare essence. After all, I learned a couple of lessons. Look, I could complain, but I came to see that DC's been good to me. It may not be your city or your hometown. DC's been good to me. Keep that go-go punk groove on round and round. DC's been good to me. Chuck Brown, R-E-E-U. DC's been good to me. Thanks for giving us that go-go groove. DC's been good to me.
One time, from Carolina, born and raised in the South, couldn't have made nothing finer. As a teen, music found me, so I made my way to Howard University. Dressed in Chocolate City, no, you ain't know. On Georgia Ave and all the women that are beautiful. Graduated and I started to teach. Around that same time I found a go-go beat. One time for Chuck Brown, two times for Lil Benny. Yard, the junkyard, and now you can get it. Some bands are old, some bands are new, but everybody know what that pocket do. The heartbeat of the city and it never stops. From Bennett Road to MLK, best believe we rock. Yo, I'ma get this music all that I got. Hey, buttons rise to the top, no lie. Check your hands in the sky.
DC's been good to me.
And you know we gon' ride.
DC's been good to me.
It never gon' die.
DC's been good to me.
Go, still alive.
DC's been good to me. Been good to me. She is where I come to get my groove on, yeah, yeah. Oh, can't hear the folk jazz sing. The go-go has a swing, chuck round you to just be. DC's been good to me. Gave me a big family. Minnesota to Atlanta, Chocolate City. DC's been good to me.
You're tuned in right now to the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live, WinDC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWin.media. And that right there was the JoGo Project with DC's Been Good to Me. And I played that on purpose for my guests right here because I wanted to get their views on exactly how Capitol Hill was ran. And just for the simple fact that we all know there's a lot going on up there right now. For the simple fact that we have a president in office who never really had any political experience, and yet he's sitting in that chair right now, which obviously is a sign of the times, as far as how America has taken position. As far as, I mean, some people say they're fed up how politics is ran, and it's always, you know, things can't get done. Capitol Hill's always in gridlock because of political views and the left and the right and all of that. So we're going to put a president in who doesn't have those affiliations, you know, and yet we have even more how do we call it? Even more craziness, for the lack of a better term, going on now than we ever have had. So I just want to get y'all views. One, I'm gonna do locally first, okay? Because everything starts at the local level. All right, and by the fact, how long you two been in DC? Start with you, Queen.
I got here in 1997.
97.
So it's been a while, you know, only with the exception of 3 years when I went to law school and came back. So I feel between 2001 and 2004, DC changed. When I left, it was one way. I came back, and I think that's when I started to physically see gentrification.
Okay.
That's when the housing. I didn't mean to, you know, go long, but like I said, I've been here quite a while to see changes here, and I live in Virginia now. That's a. I don't know if we want to open that bag.
Oh,
politics,
yeah.
but I live in Northern Virginia.
How long you been here?
So I've been in the DMV going on 5 years now.
You fresh blood.
That's what I'm saying. He's
So
Yeah,
young,
he's fresh
young
blood.
in this.
You haven't even got beat up yet.
I'm still behind the ears apparently. So, but yeah. So and I came here for work and school. So.
But you understand the process. So on the local level of things that we've definitely seen a big change over the years. It was just with the DC City Council, how things have changed coming from what we had. How many years of Marion Barry? 4 terms, I believe, 4 terms straight, and with him being in office to now having our first back-to-back black woman at that. Being in office, but a lot of people see that fact that, you know, soon we'll have a white mayor, more than likely, which would be a first for this area. And a lot of, you know, we see a lot of cranes going up in the sky now, and DC's become big business, big business. And I was always told by my grandmother, God rest her soul, that, look, this plan has been put in place for a long time. We just now seeing it. And Europeans don't move the way we move as black people. We move day to day, you know, without that long-term picture plan, you know, and I think that's what's been incumbent, been a problem for our people, you know, and I think a lot of times when you have problems in your face on a daily basis, it's hard for you to look long term. So on a local level things, you know, when y'all brought it up earlier, as far as gentrification and whatnot, I hear a lot of people, you know, we complain about, wow, you know, this is why we can't get this done, or this is why we can't get that done. And the first thing I said is, well, look, if you took care of your neighborhoods initially, and was being more aggressive about, you know, neighborhood watch and PTA meetings and things of that nature, you would know what was going to be. You would knew what was coming down the pipeline. You know, and so now that it's here, we're being reactive instead of being in front of it, proactive. What are your views for us as a people moving forward from here? Because now, you know, everything's in motion now. It's hard, as they say, to put the horse back into the barn. You know, so what do you feel like are the next move for our people in order for us to deal with, because like you said earlier or off air, you know, it's so expensive to live in D.C. right now. The average person has to move out of the city in order just to survive. So how do you feel, you know, and I'm gonna start with you, Christy, where we need to go as a people, and just thought-wise as a plan, because it seems like that's the major problem. We don't have a plan as a people.
Wow, that's a deep question.
Oh, that's we here for.
I thought you.
Did you see the logo when you came in?
I did.
Okay, you see that all-seeing eye? That's what we're about here.
No. I know this is about thoughts and ideas and opinions. Oh, that's a tough one. As a people, I think it's going to be hard to bring us together to get a quote plan. I think that the absence of one is probably why we're in this particular situation. I mean, I think it's time for us to all, as a term that we haven't coined, get woke. I hate the term, but I mean, you got eyes wide open. You know, realize what's going on. And I think it all comes down to economics and money. What are we, if we have a plan, what are we going to do to equip ourselves with, if you want, let's say if we talk locally, if someone wants, that is, let's say generations have moved, have been here, have lived and want to live here, it's about money. And if gentrification is coming, you realize property taxes are going up. You realize there's more home values. You realize there's going to be people that might not look like you living around you. Do you have your assets and finances in order to stay where you are? Or also building, it's wealth building. It's for generations. What are you doing to ensure that your offspring, your family, your cousins, others that are important to you, that you can't, if something happens to you, what's in place for them? A lot of times too, and I'm an attorney, I don't necessarily practice and trust in the states. I have to give my disclaimer. But I have friends that have children or other situations that just look me in the face clearly and say, I don't have a will. I don't have anything. How can you not? It's not just about you. Like I said, it's thinking about others if you are not around. I think we have to start thinking not just about me, it's about us. What can I do? And like I said, these things may not be a plan, but it has to start individually.
But haven't we been inbred that selfishness from back in slavery, to today? It's just like we talk about us coming together, but at the end of the day, it's like you got to be about yourself. You better worry about yourself, because you start thinking about others, we're going to beat you down. Mentally, physically.
Oh, I don't disagree with you. But to change that, I'm not sure how we start. I mean, I think, again, it's like we're saying, each one, reach one. It's some little way trying to find someone that is like-minded and say, what can we do together? We just have to keep trying. But you're right. I mean, that mentality you just said goes into the workplace. It goes everywhere, because, not to digress, I've been in situations where there might be a few black women in a work environment. And, I come, big smile on my face, thinking, okay, I'm going to get help. Hey, it's another sister. We're going to change some things, and we're going to do something.
Right.
To sometimes be shot down in a very subtle way. Right. Sometimes not even words spoken the first day, like, we're here again.
Yeah.
Or that person, I'm not her ally. Someone who doesn't even look like us is her ally. Right. And she's doing whatever she can do to make sure that my light can't shine, which is sad. And that happens
a lot.
All the time. I mean, all you can do is still be yourself. Present your authentic self. Hey, this is me. I'm here to help. But if someone can't accept that, you can't force them. I mean, I know I might be saying what I'm saying may sound trite, but it's got to start somewhere.
King?
So I think, I agree. I think, usually in the circles that I navigate, I'm usually going to be the one of a few black men in the room, right? During these meetings, these hearings, these briefings. So, part of it is the challenge of how do you build coalitions, partner with people to attempt to move projects forward. Because unfortunately, you can't trust even those that look like you
Yes,
at times.
that's the sad part.
That's just the reality. But as was said earlier, you can't allow that to change who you are, and change what you bring to the conversation or to the space, which goes back to your confidence in knowing who and whose you are. And so, yes, all politics is local, but what we're dealing with at a broader scale is the global system of white supremacy and how that manifests in so many different ways around the world, right? And so it goes back to, okay, now that we have this knowledge, what are the various ways in which we could share and disseminate this information, this knowledge, to help our people? And that's a lifelong thing. Like there's, I don't know if there's going to be like some point, some pivot point, like boom, that's it. No, that's the nature of the world. So it gets back to, for me, purpose. Like, why am I here? What purpose am I serving in my generation? How can I, again, make this place better than how I found it in some way, shape, or form? And that's what helps to keep me sane, in spite of all of the stuff that's going on, in the world today on Capitol Hill. So I get it. But when you get to a place where you have evolved, and you have acquired knowledge of self, and because it's with that acquisition that will serve to empower you to seek out ways in which you can make that positive change, that positive, sustainable change. And so that is what keeps me going. That's, because I've been blessed to meet some great, phenomenal people, do some great things. But I also think long game, like what type of legacy am I leaving for my children, my grandchildren, families? Like, that's important as well. So when we are battling with the global system of white supremacy, as a people, we're challenged with, how am I going to pay this rent next month, or buy this food, or put gas in the car? I've lived it. I know. Almost being evicted a few times. It's just not knowing where the next meal is going to come from. I done lived it. Trust me. Right? But part of it too. My point. Yeah. Right. So, but part of it too, though, is my faith as well, which is the bedrock for me. That's my foundation. And so, whoever you believe as your higher power, quote unquote, like, find a way to connect with that much more intentionally. For me, it's God. So, and so that's what has served as my bedrock in terms of working through all of the stuff and the barriers, the warfare, the challenges, to get to this point where I am able to, in meaningful ways, share my story, and as a consequence, be an inspiration and a model or a framework that will help other people to fulfill what they've been called to fulfill.
I totally agree, piggybacking on your point about leaving something for the next generation. Like, for me, that's part of, it wasn't something I intentionally thought of as I was writing the book, but my book will begin to be that for my daughter. If she decides, okay, I want to get into publishing, I want to get into writing, I'm laying the groundwork for her now. She may not have to necessarily do certain, she may not want to do certain things I've done professionally, but it's saying, you know what, there's something that's been built, maybe I want to take it to the next step. But I also don't want to necessarily disclaim or, knock off, let's say, support that we get from people who don't look like us.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Because, going to the book, not necessarily a plan for our people, I have gotten very positive responses from white folks have said, that have come to me, which I put the book out there. You don't know what you're going to get. You don't know how people take things. You know what? We need this. And pointing to the picture on the front. We need this. Thank you for doing it. Which is great, because, I'm like, that only gives me further, like, you know what? Yes, this needs to be.
Is that disheartening sometimes? A little. Because you get more support from others than you do your own.
And really, I have a specific example, but it was heartwarming, but as well. in December when I went home to Louisiana for Christmas, my high school, a Catholic parochial school, you know, I told them about the book. The reaction I got, now I'm an alumni, was overwhelming. I went into a room to read, and I'm usually reading to like 4 to 7 year olds, but there were parents in the room, from the administrators of the school. This is our rock star alumni. I mean, children, a little girl, she has the same name as my daughter, Harper, came up, hugged me, stood next to me. You know, but just the process, you know, a lot of times with authors, it's getting an event done. The reading is the finished part. You see the pretty, but it's the background, the emailing, what time, what did, you know, all of that, that's the hard legwork. That was easy. Some organizations I've gone to that are predominantly black, it goes into the ether. And that's why, that's sometimes like, well, why? Now, mind you, I have a connection to the school, you know, the education, but it just was simple, you know, but it's not going to stop me. You know, I appreciate their support, but I'm going to continue in all veins. If one black organization may not be interested, there'll be one. Sometimes you have to have many doors turned on you before the big one, the right one opens, and that's okay. Because, you know, a lot of people have, and other people have ideas for books. Well, you should be doing this, you should be doing that. I take opinions and then I filter them and go the way I feel I need to go. But yeah, it is disheartening. Like I said, sometimes you just have to keep trying. You know, I'm those people, I think sometimes the older you get, you just, not say don't care, you just unabashed it. I'll email or contact anybody. All you gotta just tell me no. You could tell me yes. So it is, I mean, sometimes we may get more support by those who really have nothing, they don't have the same melanin we have.
Right. But everybody has an agenda.
Oh, true.
Everybody has an agenda. And so you have to decipher, you know, which one is beneficial to you and your goals. And so I've always, trust me, in what I do right here, I have 2 radio stations. All right, this right here, we just so happen to be on the side for independent artists and entrepreneurs, such as yourselves. The other side is for go-go music, the local indigenous music of the D.C. metropolitan area. If you're not familiar with it, trust and believe me, it's what jazz is to New Orleans.
Or where I'm from, Zydeco.
Okay, right. So it is yours. Do you think I could get the support of our own people to help uplift this station? Yeah, as long as we buffooning, you know, and we doing things of that nature. Oh yeah, you know. But when it comes for us to come together and do something that will help all and to build up this culture, man, it's like pulling teeth, you know. But I said, well, you know what? In order for me to do what I need to do, I have to go get real dollars. And so I had to go get, you know, corporate dollars, you know, and in order to do that, I have to clean up the image, you know, and we had to come a certain way. We had to come suit and tie, you know. Oh, man, you selling out.
Right.
You know, so, and I had to deal with that on a regular basis. But you know what? At the end of the day, I didn't give y'all a chance.
See, but what did you just say, a chance? You gave someone an opportunity.
Yeah. So when, you know, when things start moving the way they move, you know, then all of a sudden, one thing black people love is the success story. You know, we love to ride that wagon. Hey, they winning. They winning. We over here.
We knew him when.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. All of a sudden. You know. Oh, now. You like that now, huh? I mean, like that. I've been this way.
Yeah.
You know, I was right there with you. You know, so I love hearing what y'all talking about. When we come back from commercial break, we're gonna talk about the Book Bazaar this Saturday. What were, and I want you to think about this. Definitely you, Brother Inya. What kicked in for you to initially write this book? You know, what was, because there had to be a point and we said, you know what, this has got to be done.
Yeah.
You know, because anybody, it's a lot of people, I talk to a lot of people on a daily basis. Man, I need to write a book on my life story. You know, I hear it on,
all the time. Yeah.
You can hear that 10 times a day if you really ask. Yeah. And you look at some people's like, man, if he wrote a book on that, you know, people will read that. But it takes a lot just to do that.
Absolutely.
You know, the ideal is one thing. The action is something totally different.
Execution.
You know, and Queen, you basically led into what you was, you know, what led you into to writing this book. So, and I can dig it, but we're gonna get into all of that because I have a little girl. You know, and I waited till I was in my 40s to have my child.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No doubt.
Similar to me. See?
Other than the fact that she wants a playmate with her, and I'm like, you know how old I'm gonna be when y'all walk across the stage? You know, I'm gonna be in a wheelchair for real. You know, so
now that's a whole nother show. That you know, we've got like 5 other offshoots of the shows.
But we definitely gonna get into as far as, you know, the basis for your books and why anybody. Yes, it is Black History Month, but why these 2 books are significant to anybody that's walking right now. All right, you tune in right now to the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live, Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWin.media, coming to you live from the shops at Iverson, and we'll be right back with you.
The Shops at Iverson is now undergoing a transformation, creating a mixed-use center where the community can come together to eat, shop, relax, and feel connected. The Shops at Iverson is a 600 KSF mixed-use property consisting of retail and office space now available. Located inside the Beltway on Branch Avenue, Maryland, just minutes from downtown DC. It's an exciting time at the Shops at Iverson. Several beautiful renovation projects are ongoing, transforming the Shops at Iverson into the new safe community hub. DMV, get ready to enjoy the new food court, opening late spring, early summer, featuring new restaurants like Chipotle, Quickway Hibachi, Tropical Smoothie, Wingstop, and free Wi-Fi. The Shops at Iverson, the original home of the world-famous Snickerdoodle cookies, is completing several cosmetic improvements to the mall interior, facade, and parking garage. The Shops at Iverson is the new home of GoWin Media, comprised of the DMV's premier internet radio stations, GoGo Radio Live and Win DC Radio. For updates and more details, check out shopiverson.com. That's shopiverson.com.
All I really wanna see is the money. I don't really need a D, I need the money. All I bad need is a KC.
Hey, this is China Pink from the 2018 award-winning Best Radio Talk Show of the Year. Make sure you tune into the Ladies of the China Pink Talk Show each and every Sunday on Win DC Radio from 5 to 7. Make sure you check us out on Facebook Live and YouTube Live to hear our amazing show. We are also available for hosting events or parties. Please contact the China Pink Show at AOL.com for booking information. I'll catch you next Sunday at 5.
It's your man DC's own DJ Frank White. Make sure you tune in Monday, Wednesday, Friday, 10 a.m., 2 p.m. Coffee and Crank Show, the hottest go-go show on the internet. Make sure you tune in. Tell a friend to tell a friend to tell a friend to come in. If you want to advertise your business, your event, Mama got a call in 844-604-6946, extension 10. Book your thing right now.
What's good, y'all? This your boy AJ Throwback, and I want y'all to please check out the show. A few interests are uncovered. Every perspective is considered. All walks of life are represented, and indie artists from the DMV and beyond get their shine. It's the Balancing Act Radio Show, a.k.a. Bars, hosted by yours truly, Wednesdays from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Only on WinDCRadio.com and the WinDC Radio app. And of course, it's all powered by GoWin.media.
What do you want from life? Success, happiness, money, fulfillment? Here's your chance to create all that and more with a new career in cosmetology and professional barbering. Hair Academy 2 is an education program designed to teach you all you need to know to succeed in the wide-open beauty industry career field. Hair Academy 2 is located in the Shops at Iverson, 3705 Branch Avenue, Suite 1010, lower level, Hillcrest Heights, Maryland. Our school prides itself on honesty, integrity, and service to our students and customers. While you're learning the skills needed to succeed, you'll be serving the community by providing them with quality services, offering senior discounts weekly on our clinic floor, and our barbershop is running free hair specials when presented with flyer. For more information, contact Minta Campbell in the admissions office at 301-899-9100, Monday through Saturday, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. Create your success story with an exciting career in cosmetology and professional barbering at Hair Academy 2. Classes are filling up fast, so call today, 301-899-9100. This is Crank Therapy. Go Radio Live.
Oh yeah, your boy DJ Chuck Classic, Go Radio Live. Letting you know you can catch me in the mix every Saturday, 2 to 4 p.m. It's Crank Therapy. Oh yeah. And I hit you like this.
Crank Therapy. Crank Therapy. Crank Therapy.
2 to 4 p.m. Crank Therapy, Saturdays.
DC, Maryland, and Virginia. Tune in to the GoWIN Radio Show, hosted by Nico, the Go-Goologist, and Ms. Lady on GoGo Radio Live and Win DC Radio. Powered by GoWIN Media, LLC. It's live, baby, from the shops at Iverson.
That's right. We're back right here on the GoWIN Radio Show, and I have my two very esteemed guests, and I'm going to tell you something. If y'all missed any part of this interview right here, make sure you tune in to our YouTube channel. This show right here, the GoWIN Radio Show, is on the Win DC Radio YouTube channel, or you check out our Win DC Radio Facebook page, which is both of them are on live right now, as well as the Win DC Radio app. Okay, we're live on all those channels. All right. So right now, I wanted to get into one. We have a very, very big Black History Month, as they call it, book bazaar this Saturday, and I say that because once again, as I laid out this show with, is every day, and I think that's what the problem is we compartmentalize our history, you know, and if we would understand, like, every day we have something to be proud of as a people, maybe we can get out of this being blocked into, okay, well, this is the time of the year we celebrate this. And I talked about this on the last time we aired this past Thursday, and which was Valentine's Day. And you know, my wife was listening and whatnot, and I said, hey, look, I love my wife. I'm not into Valentine's Day because, one, I understand what it's all about. It's all about feeding the monster, which is the economic system which we live in, capitalism. If you realize that there's a holiday every single month, you know, in order to generate funding going into the stores. Once you go to the stores, buy, you know. And so, but what's really around that holiday, you know, the principles, what are the principles inlaid from? So I have a personal, you know, issue with, you know, with holidays being imposed upon us as a people. So that's why I look at, you know, Black History Month as, okay, it is what it is, but let's take advantage of it and use it to our discrepancy. All right. So with that being said, this Saturday, come on out. We want to see everybody at the lower level of the shops at Iverson from 12 to 5?
12 to 5.
Yeah. 12 to 5. And I believe y'all going to be based in the bounce zone area, if I remember correctly.
Well, we haven't. I don't think we've gotten all of the intricate details as of yet.
Well, I was in the meeting,
okay.
So I believe they said they're going to have you, which is they calling it. I know it's originally called the bounce zone, so it's right next to the church.
Okay.
All right. So which is the Community of Hope church. My pastor, Reverend Lee, who resides over that church. So, but it's right next to it. If you coming from where we at right here, it's on the left hand side. Okay. All right. So, but I believe that's where y'all going to be at, and y'all going to be sitting in there the majority of the day. So, so let me ask, and I led this before we went to break. As we call it in radio, we tease the situation. So, Brother Inya, tell us what led you to actually writing your life story. Now, you told us earlier, you know, why you felt like somebody would want to read your story, but what actually, because it's a lot of people out here that say, yeah, man, I need to write my life story, you know, I need to put it in a book, because it'd be a great movie one day, you know, and people don't understand, a book is one thing, a screenplay is something totally different.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Something totally different. So, but what made you want to write your life story?
Yeah, so I actually didn't really have an interest in writing at all. I never saw myself as a writer, quote unquote. But I think what kind of sparked it was seeing my dad, who is a professor. He actually just retired. He wrote several books.
Well, where did he? What college?
Yeah, so
university.
Right. So he actually taught at Coppin State University for a few years, and then he moved to Chicago.
HBCU?
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely. I love HBCUs, definitely. And so he started there, and then he moved to Chicago, and so that's where he retired last year. And in that process, he wrote several books, and I would kind of wonder why he was so adamant about writing. I was kind of focused on my career in school, trying to get into med school and all that stuff. But as I lived life, and just kind of coming from a family that had a passion for service and giving back, and just the life lessons that I learned, that I think that kind of planted the seed for me to consider how can I kind of package this content, this life experience, these battles that have fought and overcome. How can I package that and share that with the world stage, right? And so it wasn't until maybe 2009 or 10, I think, was when I really kind of began to journal. And I took my journal and a lot of the book came from my journal. So I had to, but at the same time, even prior to that, I had to really sit and just kind of think back to my childhood.
Right.
And like figure out what my life experiences, what was like growing up, and kind of really pull that together. So I went from my roots in Nigeria, but also tracked it down, childhood, high school, college, grad school, med school, Capitol Hill.
What was the time process for
Right.
that?
So it took about 40 actual writing hours over the course of 90 days to write the book. I started writing the book.
No, I'm talking about the journal process.
So I usually spend a good, at least a half hour to 45 minutes journaling every morning. And I started that whole process, again, like maybe about 8 or 9 years ago. And just as a way to just kind of meditate and just kind of put my thoughts on paper, because I found it very therapeutic to write. But at some point, because of the challenges that I was kind of working through to get my career off the ground, I said, look, man, people need to know what I've had to overcome to get to this point. So and then kind of randomly people would kind of say, you should write a book. I'm like, I'm not a writer. I don't why? What's the point of it? But as a few people just kind of kept planting that seed, I'm like, okay,
were they family?
No, they were just like kind of random people actually, or friends that I've kind of met along the way. And so it did get to a point where I said, okay, I need to share this story. This story will not be wasted. And I believe, again, as a Christian, that God redeems time and your experience, and He knows how to craft a masterful story that is beautiful. And so, kind of with that thinking, I went ahead and started to put pen to paper. I hired a writing coach. So I believe in buying black and supporting my people, definitely. So I hired a black writing coach. I hired a business coach, and so that was helpful for me to kind of
that's big, right?
To provide a framework for me to write from 15 minutes to 30 minutes per day, and I went through that process. Now, I was always very disciplined, but to now pivot into a writing space, it takes a certain level of discipline and focus. And so over the course...
Can I ask you a real quick question? So when you got these coaches, what were the key things that they actually instilled in you?
Yeah. So it goes back to what we said earlier about they had a roadmap. you know, they had the tools like towards outline. So how to map your book, how to create an outline, how to put your thoughts on paper, how to come up with your ideas, how to draft them, how to create space in your calendar to be focused enough to write daily, or however that looks like for you, to make that commitment to write regularly so that you ultimately can get that book across the finish line. So she was very supportive. She had conference calls and Zoom calls. So I invested in myself. You know, I invested in the support and the tools that I know that I needed to get from one point to the next. And so that was very helpful for me. And so it took about 90 days, literally from December, I think, 19th of 2017 to about like February 17th of 2018 to get the brain dump on paper. And then it took about 3 to 4 months to edit it and get it proofread. And I launched it on my birthday last November 22nd. So that was, you know, by and large, the process for me. It was a lot of investing because this is part of my business as an author entrepreneur as well. So taking the content from the book to monetize it in terms of revenue in various ways. So now I'm creating a course, a first of many courses about my life experience and how I got to where I am today. And that's part of how I'm sharing my knowledge, my expertise, my education with the world stage is, you know, really putting this information in a way that is digestible, and that has become part of my passion now.
Queen Christy, please tell us, because first and foremost, I, as an old father,
please don't use that term. You are a father. We shouldn't categorize by age.
It's a joke. It's a joke because at the end of the day, I was blessed with the situation that I'm in right now, and because I know as being younger, I wouldn't have been able to handle the situation. I work in the clubs on a regular basis, so I had to slow down in order for me to have a child. Otherwise, I would have been a terrible father. And I started out as a terrible father. I wasn't supportive to my wife. I wasn't home like I should have been when she needed me to be, you know, to deal with the child and things of this, you know, of that nature. And so, and I had to learn through the process, you know, and it was very humbling. I had to really get spiritual with the situation and really tap into my inner self. And something that you said earlier, you know, no matter what your faith is, you need to tap into that and draw from it and grow from it. And if you don't do that, then you walking out here like a zombie, you know, and you letting situations dictate you instead of you dictating the situation. So tell me, what was the point for you where you said, and you touched on it earlier, but I would like for you to expand on it, because I was trying to get you out of that so we can lead to this point now. But you was like, no, we gonna get this out. We gonna talk about this book right here. I said, well, we got that. We got that.
It made sense at that point.
But you know, but
I can talk a little bit more about
my point with everything leading up to that is, when people want to buy a book, sometimes they want to know about the author.
Sure.
You know, and they want to know, you know, the background. So, well, why should I buy this book?
Okay.
You know, so that's what all that was about earlier.
And for me, it started, well, I've always loved to write, but I never thought about a book, because it seemed like, not to say unachieved, it seemed like laborious. Like, oh, a book, it's got to be big, it's got to be thick. What would I write about?
Right.
I was between jobs. There was a job that just didn't work out for me. And I made the decision, and like I said, the older you get, you have more wisdom. This situation doesn't work for me. I'm leaving. And my daughter's godmother, who is also a close friend and a mentor, we were just talking about things I liked. Just a random conversation. She came over to spend time with Harper, and she just looked at me across the table, very nonchalantly. You like to write a book. And I just looked at her. I said, a book? Well, she's like, I know someone who did it. And I think for me, this this was written in the cards for me to do. God wanted me to do this because I hear so many people talk about their struggles with the book, and not saying it was easy, but it fell into place quicker.
Yeah.
Like almost lightning speed. And it's
Yeah.
the people I work with. So from that conversation, I was connected to another author who just started me thinking about outlining my story. What do you want to write about? And for me, I write about what I know. You know, I can go back a couple years, about 8 years ago, almost 9, I lost my father. I wrote an article for the Washington Informer about grief. It was just something I need to get off my chest. Just observing how people, when I lost them, and how sometimes people relate to you differently, how it comes in waves, how people may not want to address that. It's kind of just had all these topics about grief. So I'm always writing about something that I'm going through. You know, also around that time wrote about hospice. Sometimes, you know, we as a people are averse to using hospice, what it means. People don't understand what hospice means. So I'd written about a lot of things that I was going through. So I was thinking, okay, what would make sense now? But I just started to observe patterns, things that we would do with my daughter. So, you know, it was around that time we started teaching her how to pray, the nightly routine, because children, you got to give them routine. Remember, you know, it's like, okay, she's going to bed, we're trying to teach her how to pray, and she just looked at us, me and my husband, and I said, I don't know what to say. I said, okay. You know, we said, okay, well, just think about what you did today. And I started just thinking about these are the things you should be grateful for. And just also, no child is perfect. Sometimes things happen at school. She may have gotten mad at somebody. I'm like, okay, you shouldn't have done this, but they forgave you. That's the blessing too. She loves my mom, loves her grandmother. That's a blessing. It's also, like I said, not portraying the perfect child, but portraying a child. You know, so for me, like I said, it comes from organic place of this is where I am in my life. You know, I guess I'm an expert on raising a toddler. She's 5 now, so I wanted to put that out there. But like I said, truly from the lack of representation, of confident, strong little black girls on covers of books. I mean, like I said, I brought her to bookstores, and I think Spike Lee's wife has written a beautiful children's book, a couple of other well-known women, but it's always in these obscure places in the children's section. Like, I've got to hunt, you got to find, like, I got to be a detective, like, well, where are they? You know, people in bookstores, Barnes & Noble close to where I live, they even acknowledged it. You know, they said, I asked, where are some of the African-American children's books? And it's like, you see that pained look on their face, like, oh, yeah, she knows they're not a lot. So, you know, walking me over, then I think one point I just said, this is it? Are you serious? And I just started thinking, okay, as I was around the same time thinking about routines and patterns, I said, it's time to do this. And for me, the process was probably quicker, because for children's books, the imagery is what captures them. You don't write a lot of words. And I was also connected to an award-winning illustrator. Again, this was all part of God's plan, you know, who's won a lot of awards. He's illustrated many books. He's illustrated some of the books that will be at the book fair, where he literally saw pictures of us and made us come to life. Because people who see the cover, they say, that's you. That's your daughter. But it's, you know, I had to learn how to write for children. You know, I'm used to writing for adults. You know, less words, less sentences. It's kind of getting to the point, but also making it a nice message, because I wanted to have a book where I had a positive message in the book, and it's also a timeless, not trendy, not like somebody picks it up from five years from now and says, oh, this is passé. No, gratitude, appreciation, thankfulness, these are timeless things, and they're also gender neutral. You know, because I had someone say, because it's a girl on the cover, oh, well, I'm looking for a book about boy empowerment. Anybody can be empowered by this. You know, also to encourage families to talk, because we all lead such busy lives now. Some people, they're not even around the dinner table every night.
Tell one story. I didn't want you to go too far.
Okay.
Tell, not necessarily a story, one factor that anyone, boy or girl, can grasp from this book.
Appreciation. One word. I mean, I can give a couple, but
no, that's good.
How to appreciate what you have.
In this time and age where we live in right now, the shorter is the better.
Yeah.
You know, so appreciation. So, because I know nowadays, like my daughter, she's an avid reader. I use the term, right, I wish my co-hostess was here. I use voracious as a word. She was like, what the hell is voracious? Yes. But she reads all the time. She'd be at the dinner table trying to read and eat at the same time. So, and we stay out of the way of that. You know, we was blessed with a daughter who wants to read. You know, she's in 3rd grade, reading at the 6th grade level. You know, so great. You know, we're blessed with that. But what you were talking about with the illustrator, I know nowadays that kids, or just people in general, they have very short attention spans. And so pictures, the visual is very, very important now. So, but with you, well, I'll tell you what, you kind of touched on it earlier. So is it that big of a difference between children's books and dealing with what I would say? Well, I know it's a huge difference from what he's doing. That's night and day. But from typical, nonfiction books or fictional books, how big of a difference is it from doing something what you're doing to a typical nonfiction book or fictional book?
Well, I think with children's books, it's about the age range, because the younger they are, you need more of the visuals to convey the message. So, and it's all about the illustrator. That's why you have to be very mindful when you pick one, and it's almost like giving over your vision to someone. But I was with someone who had someone that's very skilled, where I think from the minute he saw my vision for what I wanted to convey, he could picture it. Okay, well, she's in the playground doing this. She's with a friend doing this. She's doing that, and then it became time to actually draw, because I wanted, since it's Harper Counts Her Blessings, the title, I said, let's work on Harper needs to look like Harper. And of course, saved me last, because of course, I needed, I said, I'm the pickiest, have me, but it's the visuals make or break the book. Because if I just had words, it's one thing, okay, it's great, okay, her book's about gratitude, but seeing what the child is doing, kids could even reenact if they decide to really imaginative, but it's all in the visual. And I think the older a child gets, you can maybe go to less of the visuals because they want stories. I think kids books, you've got to have great, crisp, I think very clear visuals.
Okay. Well, I done took you over the time. I promised y'all I would let you go at this time. I really wish we can keep going, because I'm really enthralled with this conversation that we're having today. It doesn't even feel like an interview at all. It just feels like we really clicking right here. So once again, first and foremost, I'll start with you, Queen, since you last led off. How can they get Harper Counts?
You can purchase Harper Counts Her Blessings through me directly. My name is Christy Guillory Reed. I have a Facebook page, Harper Counts Her Blessings book. My book is also on Amazon, Barnes & Noble. I've become aware it's on Walmart.com. But I always encourage people, if possible, you can get it directly through me. I can personalize the book for your child. It's a much more personal conversation, but it's available through mainstream places like Amazon and Barnes & Noble.
Your website?
Website is coming up, ChristyGuilloryReed.com.
Okay, coming up. All right. And also, you can purchase it this Saturday.
Oh, how could I forget this Saturday at the Black History Book Fair at Iverson Mall.
On the lower level. Okay. And you, King?
Yeah, so you can purchase my book, Indisputable, The Story of a Favorite Son, also on Amazon and Kindle. You can also go to my website, Enya Strategies. That's ENYIA Strategies.com. If you want a personally signed copy, I'm happy to oblige. You can find me on social media, on Facebook as my name, OKEY, last name Enya, ENYIA. You can find me on IG and Twitter at ENYIA Strategies. You can also find me on YouTube and LinkedIn as my name, again, OKEY, last name Enya, ENYIA. But you can definitely, if you want to go to my website, again, it's on www.enyastrategies.com, and I look forward to also sharing my book at the book fair this weekend.
There it is. So, look, if you're not, I don't care what you're doing. I was about to say if you're not doing anything. No, if make some time out, come support. Look, this is Black History Month. If that's what y'all want to call it, and y'all want to lean on that, come support your own people who's trying to do something positive for our community. That's how you celebrate Black History Month. All right? Thank y'all. We're waiting on our next two authors. They'll be here at the top of the hour. So in the meantime, in between time, we're going to give you some good old DC crank right here. Thank y'all. I appreciate y'all for coming in today. All right? So we're going to go out here and we're going to take some pictures, and hopefully you can autograph a couple of these for me.
Absolutely.
All right?
Thank you.
Keep it locked right here. You're tuned into the GoWIN Radio Show.
And it don't take no x-ray to see right through my smile. I know I'll be on a go, and it ain't no drink out there that can numb my soul. All I wanna do is take the chains off. All we wanna do is put the chains off. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is put the chains off. All we wanna do is put the chains off. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. Can you tell me why? Every time I step outside, I see more people die. I'm letting you know that it ain't no gun they make that can kill my soul. All you wanna do is take the chains off. All you wanna do is break the chains off. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free. All you wanna do is take the chains off. All you wanna do is break the chains off. All we wanna do is be free. All we wanna do is be free.
in the sky, for example. Free as the soul living with no worries. It's more than perfect, it needs no curse. And that's heaven or death. It's heaven or hell. Some rolling in it deep like their name was Adele. You should have seen the angels when their wings fell. Man, I'm here to shake the bells. Shake them loose and break the spells. Turn the wind from my L. With our backs to to the wind as we sail. To a land full of milk and the honey. We don't stress over bills and the money. Cause every mouth fed and everybody full. In one accord and everybody cool. And I know it might seem a pipe dream, but we create a new reality in these tight dreams. So what kind of vision are you holding? See the thoughts in the head, make the keys to heaven open to a whole new world, a whole nother dimension, a whole new world, full of positive intentions. We see the roles, play the script and play our part, put the mind to rest, cause we live it from the heart. You see the writings on the wall, said we weren't supposed to be nothing. What we do, turn around and everything is over. Be free.
wanna be the one you can call on, babe. I swear that I won't let you down. I'll be around. Solemn promise. I'll be the air you breathe, the food you need to make you feel alive. You never want nothing, nothing. I'll be for everything. Won't you come and get you some of this magic, black girl magic, giving you everything I got. Anything you ever need, you know I got it, babe. You'll never find another woman like me. Rock the moon and let me be. I'll make your life so sweet, it's so much better. Solemn promise. You may not understand the power that is me. Just take my hand and we'll go with the flow. Nothing. I'll be your everything, baby. Come and get you some of this. Let go, magic, babe. Giving you everything I got. Magic, make you feel special. You know I've got it, babe, baby.
That was Black Girl Magic by my friend and great performer, Miss Blaze. look, for those of you who don't know that queen right there, man, she's really put in a lot of hard work. Make sure you check her out on all her social media networks. We play her music on a regular right here. You're tuned in right now on the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live. Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWIN.media, coming to you live from the shops at Iverson. And speaking of queens, I have this queen right here with me, Miss Portia Hargrove. How you doing today?
I'm well. Glad to be here.
We're blessed to have you here today. And she is another author, and I'm blessed to say that she's an author of a children's book right here called My Words Are Superpowers. And we're really going to get into that and the meaning behind all of that real soon. But first and foremost, we would like to get to know who this beautiful queen is right here, Miss Hargrove. How you doing? Tell me, today is in the middle of what we call Black History Month. Give us a little background on yourself and your upbringing.
Okay. I'm Portia Hargrove. I'm originally from St. Louis, Missouri. I went to college in Kansas City, Missouri, and then I found my way out here.
Can we stop right there real quick?
Sure.
I read a great article this morning on the way here today about how East St. Louis is the blackest city in America. Where are you? What part of St. Louis are you from?
So East St. Louis is actually Illinois.
Exactly.
Yes. I'm from St. Louis, Missouri. St. Louis County is the county outside of St. Louis, Missouri.
Okay.
Florissant. So we moved around a lot. So like Florissant, Webster, Hazelwood. So
typical black family.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Yeah. So did you? Yeah, and that's what I was reading, because I was really surprised by that. You know, that, East St. Louis is like basically across that bridge.
Right.
You know.
Across the
So
bridge.
what do you know of East St. Louis? Because when I was reading about it, I didn't mean to cut you off, but what I was reading about it was very, very interesting to me, because it was almost Black Wall Street.
I was just going to say that, yeah. It's unfortunate.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate because the history was very rich, very cultural, a lot of growth and development. And of course, like many areas, you know, you succumb to riots, and then it just never recovered.
Right.
And so it's like in that process of recovering, but you know what happens when you have lack, right? People don't reinvest, or the government don't reinvest into those communities, and then it becomes sort of like a desolate desert town. And then it's riddled with like crime and things of that nature. But hopefully they're on the rise to come back. But it's a lot. It takes a lot. A lot of their history was erased. A lot of history was erased. And it's unfortunate because when you're from St. Louis, you make it clear that you're from St. Louis, not East St. Louis, right?
Wow.
But the reality is, at one point in time, it's still a great place, still good people, you know what I'm saying? It's just unfortunate that they had to succumb to that, you know?
It's funny you said that, because when we talk about our history as a people, and when black communities did very well, and it seemed like for whatever reason, because every situation is different within itself, the communities seem to self-destruct. Or, in some cases, been planned to be destructive.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't necessarily believe that it just, people woke up one day and decided, I'm going to destruct my own area.
I can
but
say
it's
in
a
the
lot
case,
of things in place systemically that causes, you know, things to happen, and then it's just like a downward spiral.
Well, I can say that because right here in the Washington, D.C. area, like, you know, 8th Street was burnt down. During the riots, you know, well, not even just the riots, when, you know, when King got killed. You know what I'm saying? That was self-inflicted. That's what I mean by that. You know, so there are circumstances where it's been like that. Unlike where in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where
it was
right, you know, that was bombed and whatnot. So, but when you say others, and I know this is a little bit off from what, you know, what we're doing with the book and whatnot, but when you say others, when they speak of, they say, well, we are from St. Louis and not East St. Louis. How relevant is that really in a day-to-day life over there?
I mean, it's pretty clear.
Really?
Like, it's two different worlds. So it's like, you're from St. Louis or you're from East St. Louis. You
Almost
know,
like
like
Oakland is from
San
Francisco?
Right. Like, people like to represent where they're from. I mean, I think it's just a respect thing and a city pride, you know? So it's like if I'm from St. Louis, I'm from St. Louis. If you're from East St. Louis, you know, people like to rep East St. Louis. So I just think it's like a, you know, a city pride type thing.
Does East St. Louis support the St. Louis teams, sports teams?
Honestly, I can't answer that. I'm not
Okay.
quite sure. I can't answer that. I don't know.
Yeah, all right. Because here in the D.C. metropolitan area, we have this big thing called the DMV. And where it encompasses not only the Washington, D.C. area, you know, Maryland and Virginia. And true Washingtonians have a real issue with that. You see where I'm leading?
I do.
Okay.
I do.
So that's why I just want to see the relevance between the two. And
I mean,
you
it's like
can't,
right there. So in my mind, I'm like, you should represent the Cardinals, right? It's like right there. It's
Right.
like 2 seconds away, you know? But honestly, I don't know. I didn't grow up in East St. Louis, so honestly, I'm not sure.
Okay. All right. So we're going to get off of that right there. But I'm just curious because it's been, and it's funny because my mentor actually worked in St. Louis. He left from here to work in St. Louis. And I never thought to ask him that. But that article today just struck a nerve with me, you know, and by it being so-called Black History Month, it just, I said, you know what, I'm going to go down this road today. And just so happened, you were here
Boom.
today.
There we
So,
go.
yeah, that's how God works.
Absolutely.
You know, so with that all being said, so you, this is why I really want to go down the road with you all, is that affirming Black voices.
Yes.
Can you give me a little information about that? And it sounds like our other guest is here today. So go ahead and talk about it real quick.
Yeah, so Affirming Black Voices is a publishing and media company, and we have an aim to really create content, digital content, books, and film to represent the positivity in the Black culture, specifically guided towards children. Because right now we're living in a time where, you know, imagery is very popular and imagery is very important. And right now
Imagery
there's
is
a lot
everything
of, yeah, it's a
in
lot.
this time and age.
Yeah,
yes.
and you know, I can get into that later, but the thing is, our people really need something positive to see. And so instead of complaining, because I used to, you know, scroll down Facebook, scroll down Instagram, and you just see a lot of just lack and just, you know, negativity. And I'm just like, I'm sick of this, you know? And I was like, you know, instead of just complaining about it, why won't I should just create something to put out there to help my community in the way that I know how. And that's through, you know, right now the first initiative is children's books. And so that's what we decided to do.
Okay, so is this a group that you put together yourself, or did you have help putting it together? Or
Well,
explain.
yeah, I was the brainchild of it. Started with me, and then I socialized the idea, and then that's when I developed the team and got business partners. So shout out to Phi Xavier. Hey, girl.
Okay.
She's been very monumental.
I hope she's tuning in.
Yes, I'm pretty sure.
Okay, great. So, with what you just said right there, so how can others get with you with this positive project that you've put together?
Yeah, so I can be reached at affirmingblackvoices.com and also bit.ly/book Portia, and you can see the different services that I offer in terms of like ghostwriting. People want to, you know, write children's books, ghostwriting services, self-publishing services, or illustrations, things of that nature. You can hit me up there, or you can follow me on Facebook, Portia Stephanie, or on Instagram @JoyfulBlackChild.
Oh, you sound like you've been through this before. Okay, all right. Well, we're going to come back to that. What I want to do is take a moment, get our other guest here comfortable. She just walked in. So we're going to go to a commercial break real quick.
Sounds
then when
good.
we come out of commercial break, then we're going to introduce this other queen right here. And we're so glad you could join us today. I know you from somewhere. You look very, very familiar.
Yes,
But,
I was recently here doing
I'm sorry, go ahead.
oh, sure. I was recently here at the Iverson Book Festival for the Holiday Book Bazaar.
Right. But I didn't interview you, though.
You did, yeah.
No, I mean up here.
Not in the studio.
Right. I did downstairs. Okay, now I
Yes.
remember. Okay. All right, so I'll tell you what. When we come back, we're going to talk to this queen right here. Well, we're going to talk to both of these queens right here and talk about the significance of what Black History Month means to you queens.
Sure.
Okay?
Sounds good.
All right. So you tune in right now to the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live, Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWin.media. When we come right back, we'll be getting into what this Saturday at the lower level of the Shops at Iverson from 12 to 5 p.m. is all about. It is the Black History Book Bazaar.
What's up, family? This is Reverend Tony Lee, the pastor of Community of Hope AME Church, lower level of the Iverson Mall, and I want to welcome you and tell you to come and join me, Community of Hope, each and every Sunday morning, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 noon. That's right, 8 a.m., 10 a.m., 12 noon, lower level of the Iverson Mall. And we say it every Sunday that we're the Community of Hope, where everybody has a chance, and we don't care who you are, what you've done, who you did it with. Don't care if you did it last night, woke up doing it this morning, but when you get to church, you're in the right place at the right time to become all that God has called you to become. Don't you worry about getting out your best suit. You come as you are, because God loves you just as you are. That's Community of Hope AME Church, lower level of the Iverson Mall. And did I tell you we got that crank? You need to get some further information or to watch us streaming online, www.hiphopenation.com, www.hiphopenation.com. It's your man, Reverend Tony Lee's and them. All right, I'll holler, and I'll see you there.
Insurance agents, investors, financial advisors, business owners, and entrepreneurs. Why not build your brand and showcase your business on the radio show that everybody in the DMV is talking about? Talk with Tayo. This powerful broadcast is geared towards the community and entrepreneurs. A true veteran, Tayo is chatting it up with powerful CEOs and professional guests who are changing the game. Call 888-430-7747. That's 888-430-7747 to speak with one of our account executives today about advertising inside Tayo's broadcast, or check to see how your business organization or group can be a guest. Talk with Tayo. It's informative and designed to take the listeners to the next level. Call 888-430-7747 and talk with Tayo. This powerful broadcast is geared towards the community and entrepreneurs. Call 888-430-7747. That's 888-430-7747. Talk with Tayo.
What's up? It's your boy BK at the Good News Gospel Go-Go Radio Show. Just tune in each and every Monday from 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. or Sundays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. playing those gospel go-go hits and interviewing the most influential people of the DMV. All you got to do is log on to www.gogoradio.live or download the app on your Google Store or your Apple Store, Go-Go Radio Live. See you there.
Looking for a new look? Check out Hair Academy 2 in the Shops at Iverson, Hillcrest Heights, Maryland. You'll get quality services done by developing stylists and barbers. Senior discounts offered weekly and free barbershop services available when you present a flyer. Chemical treatments are also available. Call 301-899-9100 for hours of operation. Hair Academy 2 in the Shops at Iverson, 3705 Branch Avenue, Suite 1010, lower level, Hillcrest Heights. A new look is waiting for you at Hair Academy 2. GoWIN Media. We're the platform and outlet for independent artists and entrepreneurs. Find GoWIN Media on your computer at windcradio.com or on your smartphone or tablet by downloading the free WinDC Radio app, available in your Google Play Store or Apple App Store.
All right, we're back right here on the GoWIN Radio Show, right here on GoGo Radio Live. WinDC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWin.media, coming to you live from the Shops at Iverson, and we are here with two very beautiful queens talking about their books. We have a couple of different books right here. One is a children's book called My Words Are Superpowers, and I'm really, really interested in talking to you about the title of that right there, because that is something that's very, it pulls at the strings of my heart for the simple fact that, I have a daughter, and I talked about, these type of things with her, and so I'm really looking forward to expanding on that with you. And Wanshay, correct?
Yes.
All right, yes. Wanshay Blunt, this queen right here, she's here with her book, and I really want to get into information about her and her book called Gotta Make Do. All right, and I just want to get into the whole thought process of, what made you want to write this book and what it's all about. But first and foremost, I'd like to talk to you both about what, as two black women in this capitalistic society, what are your feelings about black history and how it's celebrated and kind of compartmentalized in the shortest month of the year in our community, and how it's kind of how it's, I don't want to say celebrated. You know what I mean? Because when you say celebration, it almost feels like it's you know, it needs to be on a flyer, and we're going to the club at night, you know, and honestly, because sometimes it's taken in that way.
Signal lost.
Ooh, please kill that. Yeah. So you got your GPS on up in here? You had to find us. So, but no, so, I want to start with you, Portia. Tell me, what are your feelings in regards to how, and I want, obviously the only way you can give me is a black woman's perspective, you know, but I really wanted, I don't want you to give me a general perspective. I want you to really pin it down to your personal feelings of how it's perceived and carried in the black community.
In terms of Black history,
Yes,
how we
correct.
celebrate it?
Well, this month.
This month.
Yes.
It's interesting. It seems in the world of social media and all this inundation of information, it can appear like it's kind of not as valued as it was. This Black History Month seems like one of the most disrespectful Black History Months I've seen in a long time.
I wonder why.
Yeah. It's just sad, you know.
Yeah.
And a lot of people are just so far-fetched from and attached from their history, right? And so that's just kind of disheartening there. In terms of
Why do you feel that? So
why are people
detached from
dissociated?
it? Yes.
I really think it has a lot to do with just a shift in the culture, and again, the information overload is just like every day we're hit with something. It's like we don't have time to process anything, right? And then it's like,
Do you feel that that's planned?
not to sound like a conspiracy theorist, but
No,
I do
please
think a lot
sound
of
the way
things,
you want to sound.
I do think it's very intentional. I think that I worked in different places before, and I'm aware at the power of media and visuals and music and programming and television programming, right? And so it's like when you're catering a certain type of content to a specific audience, whether they want it or not or know it or not, it's going to have an impact on them from like a developmental aspect of it, right? And so if I'm just inundated with like kick it, party, and you know, real stuff or real lyrics is whack and dumb and don't nobody want to do that, then what are you going to get? You know, what are you going to get if that becomes like the mass amount of things that people and young people are consuming, and young people are impressionable, right? It's a lot. And I just think there's an appearance of lack of value. I don't like to generalize a lot, because the thing is we seem to highlight the negativity so much, and I think it discredits the good that people are doing, simply because maybe a lot of the good people or people who are trying to, you know, do things like what you're doing right now or write books and things of that nature, they are out there doing it. They don't really have time to be on social media like that. So I just try to make sure I have a balanced approach in that. But it's very intentional. I mean, Helen Keller can see that it's very intentional of what's going on. You know what I mean? Let's just be honest here.
Well, I digress. I feel like if Helen Keller could see it, then it would be some type of way that we would be approaching it in a different manner, instead of taking it in as we do. First and foremost, I want to give you some data on exactly what you just said, because that's exactly what I've been saying for the longest about how everything is media driven, and how it's very intentional to basically put our people to sleep with the fact of this this microwave age that we're dealing with. Everything's instant information, but it's the information they want you to have.
Yeah, it's like a psychological tactic. So if you read books like...
Not like, it is.
Well, yeah. So a lot of stuff is psychological, and I think a lot of people don't realize that, and this is why it's good to be in tune and be, you know, spiritual and grounded, so you can kind of be aware of these things. So if you read books like Robert Greene, 33 Strategies of War, it's there. It's embedded. Like, these are the same tactics that they've used for centuries and decades, and it's the same thing. It's just recycled in a different way. And so... in order for people to be controlled and manipulated, you have to keep them farther and farther away from these access. So we're just going to inundate them with fun.
Right.
And dances and,
Well,
all these different things. Because it's easy.
Do you think it's by coincidence that rap music became the #1 music in the world when it became less
conscious?
Well, I wouldn't even say less conscious. It's been filled with so much negativity, so many different negative images about, especially our black women, how they've been portrayed, and just everything's about the bling now. I mean, we've been overindulged with all of this, and now all of a sudden it's the #1 music in the world. All of a sudden, when at one time you couldn't even get on the Grammys. Your thoughts on that? Please talk to us. We're not going to want to shade. Please talk to us.
Sure. So from the perspective of the youth and just individuals in general and how Black History Month is represented, I think a lot of it stems from exposure, and not only in the social media realm, but also from the home environment. As an educator working in an elementary school environment, and I've done middle as well as high school. I know
Locally?
In Baltimore City.
Okay, local enough.
Yes.
Yeah, because you in the thick of things up there. Yeah,
the knowledge.
No doubt.
Indeed. So, and working in different capacities with students from adult literacy programs to child literacy programs, I've noticed that a lot of it stems from exposure in their internal home environments from parents and guardians, and then things branch out from there. And then in the event that a child is in a school setting where they can have adequate exposure, it makes all the difference. And so myself personally, I got exposure from more things relating to Black history from my parents. And then going to a variety of schools with different types of diversity, we got minimal exposure to Black history. And then up into adulthood, maybe in like my high school years, I had to do my own research to learn more to gain greater exposure. So I think it definitely does encompass many things, from social media to your representation at home, and even in your communities, like what you pick up and how strongly you feel about learning Black history and the importance of it for your own internal well-being.
Beautiful. Well, y'all both touched on social media and its part in all of this. I think it has to go back to far as how social media actually has been really pushed into our lives on a daily basis, and to where this right here has been the motivating factor of all of it.
Yeah.
Where when they took the pay phones out, and to where you had to have this, to where like now every time you hear something, you hear an alert from your phone, you have to pick it up. You have to find out what's going on, and everything is ran through this cell phone now. And I had said this back when I started GoGo Radio Live, or not GoGo Radio, when I initially started this, and I told my staff then, I said, you know what, this is going to be the new computer right here. And I said this 10 years ago to them. I said, you got to watch this right here. Everybody's going to be tied to this. 10 years ago I said this. And now you can't go nowhere without it.
Yeah.
You can't. And I believe that's by design, because now it's a tracking device. I know everywhere you're going. I know all your moves. I know what you like. I know what you don't like. All this information is being collected, every time you open up this phone. Now I know what's going on. And so as Black women, both y'all have children?
No.
No? Oh, wow.
No, we're working on it.
No, it's all good. I mean, hey, look, I'm going to tell you, like I said, I just started, I don't know if you was listening earlier, but I just had my first, recently. And so, I'm pushing, I'm in my 50s now, you know what I'm saying? So with that, it took me a while to really appreciate. Well, first and foremost, I knew that I had to slow down in order for me to have a child, because I worked in the clubs on a regular basis, night in and night out. That's just part of my job. But I also work with the youth, and so within that, I know I have to touch them where they are at, and then at the same time, try to give them knowledge as far as, well, look, I've been down that road, young man. I think you need to look at this before you jump out there. But the way things are right now, the youth, they feel like they know it all. And I think this has a lot to do with it. Computers, video games, just the knowledge, the information that they've been pushed upon them, to where when I was coming up, we had to look for information, and it was part of our chores. Like we had the index cards, and microfiche and, things of that nature, where we actually tried to figure out, we appreciated the information once we received it. Now it's instant. Kids come out the womb wearing Air Jordans, so they don't appreciate anything that we had to actually work hard for when we was coming up. So as two black women, give me your points of views of the direction of where we need to take these children at in order for them to appreciate, one, first and foremost, black women. I think right there is where I see a huge problem at right now, is that the kids, and obviously you touched upon it earlier, it starts within the home.
Absolutely.
As me and my co-hostess, I really wish she was here, Miss Lady, I always say this, it starts with the man in the mirror. Man or woman in the mirror, and then you can go from there. If that mirror is cracked, everything else is going to be damaged around you. So you have to have that together first. But the children, the lack of respect they have for their queens now, even the young black girls are so disrespectful towards each other. I just like to get y'all personal views on that.
Start with you. Oh.
Okay.
It's unfortunate. It is unfortunate. It's a lot of things that impact that, and it's not just. Again, I don't believe these kids just woke up one day and said, "I'm going to be disrespectful," and things of that nature. It's a lot of things that they're faced with, and one thing I think we need to consider is that think about like the crack era. Think about the 80s and think about the crack era, and think about the destruction of the family unit, what that caused, right? So then you have people who from there, they were children, they saw this, they grew up in this dysfunction, whether it was their mom or their dad, right? And then they may not have had the opportunity to like fix it or make it better, right? And then they have children. And so it kind of starts there, right? So it's a lot of undoing that needs to be done. So it's easy for us to say, oh my God, these kids are disrespectful and rude and rowdy, but these kids are really going through a lot. Kids are going through a lot, and a lot of them are facing things that adults are facing with at like 12, right? And so it's like they don't have, especially in our community, it seems like they don't have those outlets to be able to talk about it or to share about it without being labeled like, I guess, disrespectful, or you think you know it all, or whatever. Like there was a 14-year-old girl who came to me, because I mentor young adults and children, and she just came to me.
Is that part of your program?
Well, that's just what I do in general, but it is a part of the program.
Okay.
And she came to me, and she was like, Portia, she just started crying. She's just like, I don't know what to do. She's like, her mother has mental illness, and they go through a lot of different trials and tribulations and things of that nature. And she's like, okay, well, I have to be an adult because I have to help my mother, right? But I want to be a kid, but then it's like when I try to be a kid, you tell me I need to grow up.
Right.
Right. And so it's just like she's in this battle and she feels like she can't win. And so she is full of anger and discourse because no one gets her.
Right.
And she has nowhere to go to talk to. And so it's like it's deeper than just a kid who talks back. It's like what's going on at home. And back to what you were saying, that yes, it does start at home. Like fortunately for me, like we went through our struggles and things of that nature, but our mother, she had taught us very key and sound foundations. Like we did a lot. It was known that Michelle's kids was good. Because that's what she taught us. And I mean, I've saw that since I was little, and so it becomes a part of who you are.
Did you grow up with a father in the household?
Yes and no. So my parents were together up until maybe about 6 years old, and then that just went south. He got into drugs, and he became abusive, and then, she divorced him and separated. And then, that's how that went. So I was able to see, like, I remember when it was good. So I have to give credit where I remember seeing when it was good. So I know what a healthy dynamic looks like and what it should look like. And I know when it's like absolutely not, you know what I mean? But some people don't even have that. And so I think that sometimes we underestimate kids because adults sometimes are a little bit, let's be honest, you work with kids. So I would love to, I can't wait to hear what you have to say. But a little bit of entitlement, because it's like, it's hard being a parent. It's hard, it's difficult, it's very challenging, it's sensitive. So no one wants to be attacked about their level of parenting. But at the end of the day, kids really need stuff and resources, and they need to be able to talk and to communicate and open up and to share things. And sometimes their environments don't foster that. And so as a result, they internalize it. And they look towards other efforts to, you know, let that energy out. So it's just like, it's a whole, it's a bigger issue. It's very deep.
Yeah, because the children today have different issues than we had when we was coming up. But while they may be different, at the end of the day, a lot of them are still the same.
Yes, but at different magnitudes. So,
Right.
for example, I know we hear a lot, oh, kids are soft. Kids are soft bullying. Oh, man,
Right.
I was bullied. I was put in trash. Okay. Well, you were embarrassed at your school, right? People made fun of you at your school. Today, it's social media. If that thing go viral, you getting made fun of at your school, at the
Right.
grocery store,
Right.
like you getting taunted online. You know what I'm saying? People find your number, they texting you and all this other little side app chat stuff.
Right.
Like it's way worse. So think about the psychological impact that has. That's way more than what we went through when somebody got beat down in the locker room.
I wouldn't say it's more, just a different dynamic.
But it's heavier. Think about it. Like
Why
people
would you
at-
say it's heavier?
Because in a school it's isolated. Like I'm not gonna say no name, but I remember an incident in middle school to this
I see
day.
what you're saying.
And I'm not gonna say the name, but this incident happened, and like this girl was known for this throughout. I'm pretty sure we said the name. People still remember that, right? But we can only talk about it. Today, it's video, it's
Right,
pictures, it's
right.
all these different things,
Right,
and they
right.
can relive it every single day.
That's
we didn't
true.
have that.
I got you.
We didn't have that. And so I think that's something that we have to consider in these times, you know?
I love it. Thank you. Come on, Queen.
See, I want to hear it.
Sure. And yeah, Portia definitely touched upon a lot of extraordinary points, which emphasize that students, and I should say youth of today, it's just a different level of exposure as far as like lifestyle and environmental factors. And then the importance of the students, or I say students a lot because I work in a school environment, but the importance of the youth being heard makes a big difference. And then, and coming from a home environment where there may be challenges, if they're in a school environment or after school program where they can be heard and they are made aware that they have a voice, it's a big help. And then giving children the option to participate in decisions can be helpful. So, oh, we're going to clean up the classroom environment. Who would like to have these specific roles to make them feel like they matter and that they're important and can contribute in a positive manner? And then, like Portia mentioned, as far as exposure with social media, it is at a different level. Like, I think about when I was coming up, my cousins and I on Christmas Day were out riding our bicycles and our roller skates. And for the past few years, I've been back home and riding through my old neighborhood. And I'm like, wait, what's going on? The weather's nice, but the children are into that social media age because technology is a part of their generation. And like you mentioned earlier, Nico, with the iPhone, it is almost 11 years old and has changed the world. So it's a lot of influences that children are exposed to, which are beneficial and helping them progress well. But there are the negative ones as well, which are getting them in the wrong direction. And then I think a lot of it is like a comparison thing as well. So when I was younger, we were doing comparisons. It's probably about a gigapet or a toy. But now the children are like, oh, I need this specific phone, this specific software. And then it makes them feel left behind. And then they're doing things to keep up with that peer pressure. So I think there are the stark differences from a generational perspective of like things that are negative that are still the same. And then there are the positive things as well. But I think when children have the opportunity to be heard and that their voice is important, and also children learning the importance of consequences, because it's like a term that's easy to define, but they don't know the reality of, oh, if I do this, there's a consequence. And just because there's a minimal consequence because you steal a milk at school, they need to understand the bigger consequences of doing things like beyond the school environment from like a justice perspective as well.
Woo. Yes. I'm going to tell you, and I can't help but associate what you're talking about with me raising my daughter and it clicks in both of you. It clicks in so much for me, like, okay, these are some of the things that I see within her, and a lot of it, of course, has to deal with peer pressure, and what they have to deal with in the school, and then they bring that home. And I'm like, look, hey, I don't care what you're dealing with over there, but in here, this is how it's going to be. But that's not realistic. It's not realistic, and they're going to take, like you want them to take the habits that they're taught at home. You want them to take it out there with them to where they're at. They're going to take those habits and bring them in the house, and that's why, like I told my wife from day one, I really would love to homeschool our child, because the negative influences they get from out there, because you really can't count on how somebody else is teaching their child.
Yeah, that's true.
And so they bring those type of influences around. For example, not even just that aspect, just my daughter riding the school bus. She's hearing all these type of negative songs that the bus driver is playing. I'm like, yo, they playing that on the bus? Are you kidding me? And so, but we have to be realistic and saying in this world, it's like, okay, how do we teach our child to block out these things and still be the child that we want them to be? Is that reasonable?
It is. I was actually going to touch on that. I wanted to ask you. I think it comes down to being able to teach our children sound decision making. And I think that's like a skill that's not really taught, is kind of expected. Because she's right. Like, it's a universal law, like consequence, cause and effect. Like, there are consequences for actions. And I think that we really need to be able to teach that to children in a way which they understand. Of course, our brains don't develop until you're like 24. So, of course, in between time, there's going to be some bad decisions that are made. But long term, so for example, growing up, my mother, she would always say, the decisions you make today is going to impact your tomorrow, period. Like, she did that. Like, I remember getting to fights, and she was, of course, she got disciplined, right? But it's like, you really think about that, and you see the result of people who made those same decision choices and where it led. Like, help them make the connections, because sometimes they don't really understand the connections. They just, living life, Help them understand sound decision making, because, this, be real, it's adults who can't make the best decisions.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, children really just want to have fun.
Yeah.
But it's hard to say, look, this has got to be serious, but you want them to enjoy life at the same time. And it's a very fine line you're walking right there.
Balanced approach. So from a teacher, I wanted to see your thoughts on that.
Sure. So I would definitely say, not only from a teacher perspective, but from a personal perspective, I think it's important to have an example set for your child about the difference between being a leader and a follower. And it's an easy conversation to have, but really having someone in their life that displays leadership qualities is so important, from accepting responsibilities for your actions and speaking up when there's wrongdoings. And like, as a parent, you want to be that best person for your child, but if you feel like you can't be, find them a mentor or a big brother or a big sister. And then a leader is someone who understands that I'll have to say no sometimes, or I'm not going to always go with the in crowd, and that's fine. And then also instilling in your child the realities of the world. So my mom, she typically would try and sugarcoat things for my brother and I, and my dad's like, nope, like, you don't have to show them like the nitty gritty dangerous parts of the world, but explain things to them so they'll understand and know, so when they are exposed to certain things, they don't, get timid or afraid or take the wrong approach. So when my mom began to talk to us and explain stories to us about her past, both good and bad, and just life things, when we got out into the world, we were more well-informed and well-aware and wasn't afraid or, wasn't unfamiliar when we saw certain things that our friends were doing that were wrong versus right. So I think the leadership perspective, coming from a parent, it can be them setting the example, or, oh, this is not something that I'm well aware of, or I don't know the answers. So seek out resources in your community, like the libraries. They have opportunities for you to borrow books, and after school programs, the opportunity for your child to get a mentor or a big brother or a big sister, because as a parent, I know there can be a variety of responsibilities, and if people have multiple children, they're thinking about, well, how can I stretch myself then for them all? But just thinking about what you can do beyond your home environment, and using your community as that village to be a leader and a good leadership example for your child.
Isn't that a fine line as well? Because, like, for instance, like, we try to watch the news together in the household, and that can be that can be shaking within itself. For instance, we're dealing with the priest, the cardinal, that and the sexual allegations with that was driven in our heads. For 15 minutes of the news, when you first come on, I'm like, yo, I just want to watch some news. I can't even, and I got my daughter with me, and she's sitting there. I'm like, I got to put the TV on mute. And so, at the same time, you want to talk to them, explain certain things, as far as, look, if somebody come at you like this is how you react. Make sure you teach them certain things of that nature, but. It's really, really trying, and I rethinking it. I definitely agree with you. It's probably way more difficult now than it was back then because, one, we had the neighborhood, kind of working with us and trying to raise our child. Now, if you say the wrong thing to a child, first thing we're gonna call Child Protective Services or whatever the case may be, So, yeah, it's definitely more difficult now, but. The challenges are different, coming from all different types of directions right now. And back to your point that you made earlier, this is definitely a plan because now I don't have to beat you down with a whip or a fire hose or nothing like that. We got these other aspects to break you down as a community.
Yeah, man.
So look. We're going to go to, we getting real heavy up in here. We're going to lighten it up when we come back. I want to play a song, right? Matter of fact, a light-hearted song. And when we come back, I want to talk about the books and how they can get the books. This Saturday, make sure you come down this Saturday. Come get your book autographed and meet these beautiful authors right here. And I love the fact that I have my queens showing up, showing strong. Showing the fact that you brothers out there, when you pick a queen to be by your side, make sure they something like these queens right here. You tuned in right now to the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live, Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWIN.media, coming to you live from the shops at Iverson.
Definition of grown and sexy is just go with me. I grab my baby name and my bag. Let's go on a shopping spree. Friends and family, all I need. Cause all I want to do today is free my thoughts and get away. Take some time for me today. BS and drama free, it'll still be there. That's one day to talk. Enjoy myself, enjoy myself for me. I got gas in my tank, money in the bank. I give the man thanks, turn up the crank. Blackwell coming through my stereo. Never about the tights, man, I love my go-go. But back to the story at hand. I'm about to set my plan in motion. I just might scoop my van, drive all the way out to the ocean. Do the damn thing, the lickety split. Back to my city, I don't play that shit. I might travel everywhere that I please, but I'm DC till the day that I leave. Oh yeah.
6 o'clock, ready to wind down, turn up, hits the beat, make you call whoever, and do whatever. Look, let's take a ride through my city, where they call the ladies round here pretty. Get us wrong in our attitude, borderline shit. Nah, I ain't going there. I'm not going there. Just do me a favor, y'all, and enjoy yourself. Yeah, 'cause all I want to do is want, yeah, is to entertain and take some time with me. It's one day to enjoy myself for me.
That's what I'm talking about. Enjoy yourself right here on GoWIN Radio Show, right here on GoGo Radio Live, Windy C Radio, all wrapped up in GoWIN.media. And that's what I'm doing right here with these two queens right here, Miss Portia and Miss Wan Shay. I'm enjoying myself and enjoying this conversation with these queens. So look, we can stay political all day long, but I really want to talk about your two books that you have right here. Wan Shay, since we haven't really had a chance to talk to you as deeply, tell us what Gotta Make Do is all about.
Sure. So Gotta Make Do is a book that I wrote as well as published and designed, and it contains 100-word vignettes, approximately 104 pages total, about my childhood, growing up in Baltimore, aspects of being born, and then overcoming adversity, family drama, values. There's a mixture of humor and things of that nature.
So it is an autobiography.
It is, yes.
Okay.
It's a memoir, and then most of the stories are stories from me being a young elementary school student that I remember, and then other ones are from oral storytelling where I'm verifying facts with my parents and cousins and grandparents.
Okay. So I'm going to ask you, like I asked the last couple authors that were here, what inspired you to write this book?
Sure. So I was inspired to write the book to open up more about myself and to share details about myself with the world. I'm like, as a writer, that's something that I've always enjoyed doing, writing about my environment and family, but it was nothing that I'd ever really shared with other people until writing this book. And then I was also inspired to write this book just to let young men and women know that you can live in an environment that's not the greatest or that might not have the strongest opportunities. You might have different things going on as far as family is concerned and even friends and things of that nature, but you can have the opportunity to still grow, learn, and be successful, seeking out opportunities and just staying focused and goal-oriented, and how important that is.
So it was self-therapeutic.
It was, yes, it truly was. It really helped me open up and just get out of my shell in the sense of sharing more with about myself with people that didn't experience or live my experience.
You wouldn't think that of someone who's a teacher. You think just the opposite, actually.
Sure.
So was that really a problem for you to really open up with others?
As a person, my personality is one where I can be shy and reserved and laid back. And as I get comfortable and familiar with the person, I can open up more as I'm comfortable with sharing more information about myself. And so in writing my book, my mentors were very influential in saying, Shay, we know these things about your personality, and this is a type of experience that you've explained to us before. So put it in the book, and just realize that when you're writing, you're not bashing your family members or saying negative things. You're just sharing your story as it took place. You're not trying to put anyone down. You're just sharing who you are, what your experiences were, and like how you were shaped as a human being. And they made me aware that, no one lives a cookie cutter lifestyle. No one's perfect or lives without imperfection. So be comfortable with sharing that, and don't worry about the perspective of like your coworkers or neighbors or friends or how they feel about you. Like, it's your truth that you live, so you have the opportunity and the right to share it.
Interesting. So your mentor you touched upon.
Sure.
Family member, friend, who?
Sure. So I actually have a variety of mentors. One was when I was in my freshman year of undergrad. one of the professors from my school, and then professors from my master's program, as well as my parents. Like, my parents, I think, were very influential in letting me know that I can be comfortable with, like, being who I am and just, like, opening up. And then my professors realized, like, in my academics, this is who I am as a person, and, like, certain aspects they wanted to see more of. So the humor and the sarcasm and just, like, the gritty reality. So a variety of mentors, like that village approach, just helping me to open up and share my story in the best way possible.
That's beautiful. This is beautiful. Because when a person would actually meet you initially, I could see, you know, you would come off kind of stern.
Sure.
And almost stoic, you know, but as the more as you speak right here, you know, you are opening up almost as a butterfly, you know, and that's beautiful within itself. And I've learned, and I especially had to learn it when I was in the military, because you meet people of all walks of life from all over, you know, and so never to take anybody face forward, you know, and, hey, look, this is, you know, you're gonna get a little bit of everything, you know, and so I've learned a long time ago to be very open and to understand that, you know, everybody has a story to tell in some shape, form, or fashion, you know, so. So, how long ago did you do this book?
Sure. So I actually finished the book, and then it was published this past May 2018.
Okay. Okay. So, so was it very, because our last author that was here, they spoke on far as how they had to get a writing coach and whatnot. So what in detail far as you put in the book together?
Sure. So I got my master's degree in communications design, and then the specialty is creative writing and publishing arts. And so throughout elementary school, I'd come home and write and draw pictures and create captions and write stories before doing my actual homework. And then my master's program, as well as my undergrad program, which my degree is in writing and entrepreneurship, it really gave me the opportunity to hone in on my personal writing and to see which path that I want to take and how that I feel most comfortable with sharing my writing. So during my master's program, I wrote a lot about family, food, fun, like the neighborhoods that I grew up in school. And then my book contains a lot of those details, but it's very focused because the specific themes are weaving throughout the vignettes. So the vignettes are 100 words each on each page, and the stories in some ways are connected and in other ways they aren't connected, but it is like tidbits of my life and like my upbringing. And then I think in writing this piece, I wanted my audience to know who I was aside from the person that I portray in my work environment or the person that I portrayed in my school environment. So there's like curse words, and then in person I'm not a person that cusses, so I had the opportunity to convey that side of like that internal in my book. And then I'm a big foodie, and people who know that will say, oh, this sounds like Juan Shay like so much. And then I'm also one where like family is important, and then for family members who I've had like interactions with prior to passing away, I've included details about them in my book as well, and verifying facts with my parents and even my grandparents about like, oh, did this really happen with this cousin, or is this where they live, is this the name of the street? And I also drove throughout different neighborhoods within Baltimore, and then visited some of the areas where my childhood home was, as well as family members' homes, just to get a feel for the environment, to see what really speaks to me. And then I just wrote sometimes in those environments, which I think is what produced some of the strongest writing, being in the moment, having a feel for it, and knowing what I wanted to convey to my audience.
Wow, I love it. I love it. Portia, top that.
I want to read your book.
Yeah. I'm telling you, no, I mean, what's great about what you were saying right there is, you know, a lot of times when you try to tap into yourself, because she was built to do this, first and foremost. Absolutely. You know, I mean, her whole background led to this moment right here. What's your story?
So I am actually like a technology person. I came from health technology leadership in that industry, and I had no desire to write, to be quite honest. It was not something that I woke up and was like, oh, I'm going to be a writer. What happened was my mother, she passed away, and I never really got a chance to grieve. So being that, you know, strong person in the family and people depending on you a lot, you don't really get a lot of time to really process those different things. So it wasn't until like years later. And so November 2016, It just got to a really low point where I really needed to deal with it. So I decided to do therapy. So I went to grief therapy. And she was like, you know, why don't you write? And I looked at her like, no, I'm not a writer. I can build you a computer. I can, you know, make an app for you, but I'm not going to write anything, you know? But the more and more I thought about it, I was like, you know what, it won't hurt. So I started journaling. And I started journaling anytime that I was, you know, having those really down and out moments and really just sad and out. But I would end it with something, okay, what would my mother tell me to keep me encouraged and keep going? And I would end each journal entry with that. And so one day I was at work, and somehow I became the work therapist as well. You know, people come to me, you know, people, and I noticed like through mentoring and through that, like a lot of people have the same issues, and a lot of it stems from the things that were either said to them or done to them as they were, when they were children. And so one day it just stuck. It was like, you know what, Portia, like, yes, you lost your mom. However, you were very grateful. You were very grateful to have someone to be able to build you up and to pour into you, and to, you're like, you're here because of her, you know? And I was like, you know, you should share that wisdom with other people who didn't have it. And it starts with the child, because if you can cultivate the mind of a child, it'll help propel them to be a healthy, functional adult.
No doubt.
And so I was like, okay, I'm gonna write this book. And so I put it out there. I was like, I'm gonna write a children's book. And, you know, I got buy-in. People were like, you would be great. You should write children's books. And I'm like, well, where do I start? What do I do? So I just started writing. And then I got linked up with one of my mentors, Tressa Azarel, and that is when I really learned a lot about the publishing world, and that's how it grew from there. And it was just incredible, because when I told my sister, like, hey, you know, I have this book, she's like, Portia, you do realize, like, because my mom, before she died, she was in school. She went back to school for business, and because we grew up on books. Like, books were our thing. She was very good on literacy. Like, we were reading in terms of history. Like, she was about that life, you know? And so she's like, you know, Mommy wanted to, you know, be a publisher. And I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I knew she wanted to, you know, have a business, but I didn't know she wanted to be a publisher. And it's like, wow, I'm a manifestation of my mother's dreams. Like, it all works together full circle. And so now that I'm in this place, you know, I feel like it's my duty and obligation to be able to share these things and share these stories and build these platforms, because it was done to me. Because I also had a lot of different mentors. Like, I had a business when I was 25 years old, and that's because I had a mentor who showed me how to do it. And a lot of times we just need examples of that leadership that Shay had mentioned earlier. Like, we need that. Kids and people and young people, they follow what you do, not necessarily what you say. So it's important to have a positive thing to imitate, and it matters. And I'm a manifestation of representation mattering, because I'm from Missouri, I'm from St. Louis. It's very segregated.
Show me.
It's extremely segregated, and it's, you know, when I was growing up, you didn't really see a lot of black people in high positions, and so it was like, I always had the dream, and I knew it was there, like the vision was there, but sometimes as you're going along the way, you can get discouraged because you don't see it. I was always the only black person at every job that I had, you know. Out of my graduating class, my degree is in biology and chemistry, it was 5 of us, 5 black people, you know, so it's like, what? You know, luckily I had mentors in college, but when I came out here, it was a whole culture shock. I was like, wow, like, wait, you the bureau chief, like, you're the director? And once I saw that it was done, I was like, oh, okay, well, I can do this, you know, and it's needed, and I just want to be that for those kids who don't have an opportunity to have that in their lives. So that's why I produce and create content for that.
So what is My Words Are Superpowers?
So My Words Are Superpowers is a children's book. It's following around Malik and Maya, and it's actually a personification of my mother and her twin brother, Michelle and Michael. So I wanted to pour that into there. And so it's siblings. I purposely did a boy and a girl, so that way each book can highlight things that girls deal with and highlight things that boys deal with. But in this book specifically, it goes around the adventures of 2 twins. The conflict arises and some things that are said. And you'll see the parents teaching the children the importance of a manifestation of words, of how they can really build up or, you know, tear down. So it comes from, you know, I believe in God. So scripture, life and death is in the power of the tongue. And all the wisdom that is in that book are the very things that my mother taught me. And when you're young like that, you don't realize the importance. Like, we couldn't say, oh, this is stupid, or I hate you, or, you know, to your sister and brother. You can't say that. Like, She didn't play that. You couldn't say those things. There's things you just could not say. And she would always say, your words are powerful. They have powers. And so I wanted to create a book that say, hey, your words are superpowers. Because not only can you speak life into others, but speak life into yourself. Like it starts within self. And you internalize it. And your internal thoughts and what you feel inside can manifest outwardly. And we need more of that because the world is telling us everything else negative. Like when you have a young boy who's saying, no, I can't do that because, you know, my dad said this or my mama said I ain't, you know, like it impacts. So it's like, no. We have to affirm and empower these kids to realize what you speak and what you think starts here and it manifests outwardly. So that it's a superpower because it literally can manifest into real life. And that's the key message. Like it can either die, create death, or create life. And it's a superpower. It can make you soar.
What age range would you recommend this book for?
So this book specifically, about 5 to 8, but the message is for everyone. And I intentionally did that so that way when parents are reading it to their children, they then become mindful like, wow, like I should probably be a little bit more mindful of how I talk to my child. Because there's nothing worse than saying, you know, a child at the grocery store and they're 3 and they're getting cursed out like they're 3. They don't understand what's going on. Again, frustration that happens, but you have to speak life into your child because it starts with you first. And they need to know that.
You've been very, very inspiring.
Thank you.
Both of you queens.
Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity and this platform. Like, we really need these things. So thank you so much.
And let me tell you something. When I put this together, because like I mean, I've run both stations. I'm the owner of both stations, and I never felt like I had time to do my own show. I just felt like, you know, very overwhelmed. I got stuff stacked on my desk right now I got to take care of. But what I felt that had to happen was that, you know, because the shows, you know, they take care of themselves. You know, they book who they want to book, and you know, and bring on who they want to bring on. And I just wasn't feeling. You can't make people do what you want, you know, and you know, for me to have the station and actually have this actual platform in order for me to bring the actual names, you know, the platform of independent artists and entrepreneurs, to actually give them the opportunity and bring in the people who I feel that need that, I had to be in the forefront of it. You know, and if I wasn't going to do it, then I felt like I was doing a disservice to the whole name of the company, being the owner within itself. And then hopefully I can inspire others, you know, because people still going to do what they want to do. And I can never be mad at that because, you know, there's something for everybody. You know, it's like you have your style of writing, you have your style of writing. You know, but for me, I have to have these type of opportunities for especially our sisters. Something that I really, when I was younger, I didn't really take heed of it. And when I say younger, I'm talking about 10 years ago. You know, I didn't take heed to the fact that that our queens need to be exalted and put in a better position in order for us men to thrive. You know, we do a disservice to our race by belittling our sisters in any shape, form, or fashion. Yeah, I love a great-looking woman just like the next man, but at the same time, trying to break them down is doing us as a whole a total disservice. And that's what the overseer wants to see, because now we're making his job easy. You know, so I'll leave it at that. All right. Thank you, queens, so much for taking time out. Hopefully I can bring y'all back on under different circumstances. That they don't have to be what's going on this Saturday. This Saturday, make sure you come down to the Shops at Iverson at the lower level. I believe it's going to be at the Bounce, by matter of fact, I know it will be at the Bounce Zone area, right next to the Community of Hope Church. Right on the lower level from 12 to 5 p.m. Right here at the Shops at Iverson, 3737 Branch Avenue, Temple Hills, Maryland. These queens, amongst other black authors, will be here with their works for the Iverson Black History Month Book Bazaar. We're going to have other activities going on downstairs on the lower level. So just come on by, bring your family through. And as I said with the last two authors, if you truly, as this queen just said, about that life, and you really say, I'm about supporting black people and our race, because that's the only way we're going to get somewhere. Understand that we talk a lot of talk about, we need to do this together, we need to do that together. The first and foremost place we got to start is on the economic level, because without sharing that wealth amongst each other, put it like this: those communities or those races that set up their businesses in our communities, what do you think they do? Do you think that they spend their money amongst the black community? No, they're taking their money out and spending it amongst their community. Okay, and that's a fact. All right, how many Chinese, Vietnamese, even Spanish you really see shopping within black-owned businesses? I just want you to take a minute and think about that. Just take a minute and think about that. We are the ones that have the resources within ourselves. They may not be great all the time, but we seem to have disposable resources, and we don't spend it within our own community. Thus, why we suffer and why essentially we jive like a laughing stock amongst other races, because they look at us and say, see, they're self-destructive. We don't have to worry about them because they're going to do it to themselves. Thank you for tuning in today to the GoWIN Radio Show right here on GoGo Radio Live, Win DC Radio, all wrapped up in GoWIN.media, coming to you live from the shops at Iverson. We'll see you Saturday. Oh, I'm sorry. This Thursday, we also going to have some special guests in here as well, if we're not snowed out, because they're talking about 4 to 6 inches or whatever supposed to be coming this Wednesday. That's what they're saying. And actually, I ain't going to even lie. I could use to sleep. But my daughter ain't going to let me have it, because, hey, look, if the snow hit the ground, Daddy, let's go out and play. That's what it is right there. So thank you all for tuning in. But I will be putting out on our social media and elsewhere what we got going on for this Thursday, our special guest that we have coming in each and every Tuesday and Thursday from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. right here on the GoWIN Radio Show. Have a great day.
For her, and I ain't seen her all night.
Well, kid, hold it down, five.
This one right here, though. Special education going out to GoGoRadio.com. The GoGoologist. Yeah. This is Stormy Saturday. Stormy Saturday. Saturday.
Good seeing you,
yeah. Miss Tracy, special request. Pick out your afro, put on your high heel shoes, put on your fancy